go. Let's do this. Come on. See people waiting. They don't want to hear us. Well, they don't want to hear us. I want to. There we
Alex is here. Alright.
I am having a wonderful Monday.
Right.
Hey, there we are.
Filing in.
There's our faces.
Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Oh, Vicky's in the chat. Hi, Vicky.
Vicky's like watches every episode now. Jeremy's here. What up, Jeremy? Jeremy. You want to play some Halo, Jeremy? All right.
Monday's a bad day. It's a bad day to play Halo.
Monday?
I got too much work to do.
Oh, yeah.
I have
There's
one
too much
job
going
that's
on.
basically been like,
You had one job.
you know, pressing on me all break.
You've been putting it off.
I have been. And then I started to work on it yesterday, and then I realized he had only sent me half of what I needed. So
And then you're in that position where you have to tell the client, oh, I wasn't actually working on
yeah,
this.
I waited a week to find out that I needed extra stuff.
Oh,
But
it's so awful when that happens. You're like,
Yeah.
okay, I can't touch this for a while. I'm
Yeah.
gonna wait, and it's like, oh wait, here's the proof I never touched it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all right. He
I-
knew I was taking Thanksgiving off.
I think we're good. I'm going to go ahead and start rolling. Check, check. I'm rolling.
I will start rolling as well.
Oh yeah, I'll hit the button.
Right.
That's
Record.
muted. Make sure my Christmas music isn't playing in the background.
Yeah.
So what
probably.
kind of delay do you think there is to YouTube? Do you keep it as fast as possible, or
It's as fast as
Um,
or a
possible.
solid delay?
We have the
Okay.
low latency on.
Yeah, YouTube's interesting along those lines. I find that YouTube has a significant lag as compared to Twitch. Twitch is
Yeah.
like 2-3 seconds, and even when you tell YouTube to be really quick, it's usually longer than 10.
Yeah, yeah. It's a pretty big delay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah, it depends what you're doing. When I'm trying to interact actively with a chat, and you ask a question,
The
and then
hot
you have to
Mograph meme right up.
pause.
Yeah. To take no time with the new setup. Oh, yeah. The job. Yeah. It'll take no time, Matt, because you got the double 3090s in there, right?
Yeah, because you know, After Effects cares about 3090s.
Oh, don't get me started on Adobe products. Man. All right.
Roll After Effects.
Is everybody rolling?
I am rolling, yes.
Rolling.
All right. We're going to do a sync clap, and then we'll get going. It'll be 1, 2, 3 clap. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. All right.
Perfect.
All right.
Chris, are you Central Time? I always forget what Chicago is.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
I am.
Well, good. We're all on the same time.
Chicago.
Exactly.
All right.
Speaking of the same time, well, along those lines. So we're all the same time. What internet provider do you guys use?
I'm AT&T.
Same. AT&T
Yeah.
fiber.
Yeah, we don't have too many options here, and I use Comcast. It's kind of the only option,
Sorry.
and I have the highest level I can possibly get, and I still hit my data cap every month. Like 3 people in the house.
You have data caps?
Yeah, there's no data
well,
cap
I mean,
here.
you hit a data cap, and they start charging you like $50 every, I don't know what it is, like gig or 10 gigs that you start going over that. And it's always like the
Man.
27th, the 28th of the month, and I start getting all these warnings like, you hit your cap, every single time.
That's awful.
I hope we don't ever get that here. AT&T, we don't have Comcast anymore, but we have Spectrum. They don't have caps either.
Yeah,
So,
I don't think it. Yeah, AT&T and no one has caps.
we've got
here that I've
gigabit
seen.
symmetrical and no caps.
Yeah.
Do you know what drives me insane is Google built a big facility in Chicago. They're actually
Mhm.
not that far from me. I can easily walk there. And they started rolling out the fiber. And I keep on getting advertisements and emails being
Yeah.
like, oh, get Google Fiber. But they're not running it in my area yet, and
Mhm.
they're like, oh, contact us, and then you try and fill out the form, and it's like, oh, if you don't live in a condo that has at least like 40 different units, then we don't even talk to you. It's like, well, stop sending me the
Yeah.
advertisements if I
Yeah.
can't use the service.
Such
I
a
want it so
tease.
bad, I'll pay for it. Wow, yeah.
Yeah, I at my last house. We should just start the show.
Yeah. Let's start the show
talk-
and
this
we'll
good
go into
stuff.
it. I'm gonna mark in topics. I'm gonna write bandwidth.
Bandwidth, yeah.
Because we don't have a lot of topics here, so.
Are we talking those 3090s, Dave? Are we talking about the 3090s?
Yeah.
You got that in hard?
Mhm.
Okay, cool.
So just the regular drill. I'll say I'm Dave. Matt will say I'm Matt. He'll introduce you.
I'll introduce you.
Just a real quick hello, and I'm gonna go into the spiel. At the end, I'm gonna say I'm Dave. Matt will say I'm Matt, and you say you're Chris at the end.
Yeah.
We take a lot of people off guard with that, so
Yes.
you'll say your name at the end as well. But Matt will introduce you.
You
at
do
the
it
beginning.
right. Dave doesn't have to edit it.
Right. Yeah.
Well, now you're giving me motivation to do it wrong.
Yeah.
Just put
I'll
an
just be
extra long
editing,
pause in there.
cursing your name. All right, here we go. What's up, and welcome to another Mograph Mocast. I'm Dave.
And I'm Matt, and joining us today is the Cinema4D guru himself, Mr. Chris Schmidt.
Hello, how's it going?
And
Thanks for having me, guys.
Mograph is a supplement to our site, mograph.com, which is a motion graphics tutorial site with tutorials, plugins, podcasts, and other Mograph stuff. And on the show, we talk about everything ranging from motion graphics to Cinema4D, After Effects, plugins, render engines, doing business, doing taxes, being a contractor, or working for the man. You can email us info@mograph.com. Let us know what you think about the show. Questions, comments, concerns, queries, grievances, topic ideas, artist suggestions. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, mograph.com, all the things. Check us out there. Send us an email. Let us know what you want to hear on the show. Send us topic ideas. We love hearing from everybody. And got an email this week about a couple of things. That somebody was inquiring about some information about a course, but also said this is from Marcus, who said he's been doing some tutorials on Cinema4D, and so I said I'd give a little shout out here. This is creating, I'll put this in the links, by the way, in the show notes, creating dynamic ropes in Cinema4D in 3 minutes. And while you're at it, I'll put a link also to his Patreon page, 3D Bonfire. And he's got like tons and tons of rope textures and things. So make sure you check that out. Thanks for shooting us an email. And yeah, check that out. And let's see.
Get that one. That email.
It was, I almost missed it. It was in an inquiry about the course. And then there was like stuff at the bottom. I actually had to send 2 emails because I missed the second part. Typing too fast.
Interesting. Yeah.
All the emails. Also, a couple week wrap-up things. Remember when Beeple was on? Mike Beepleman.
Mr. Beepleman.
Mr. Beepleman. We were talking about cryptocurrency and things, and he kept saying December 11th, December 11th, December 11th. Just you wait. And we're like,
isn't it
11th?
December 12th?
No.
Or is it just still December 11th?
No, it's December 11th. So he put out this video this morning, this little teaser thing, and it says December 11th. And it shows shots of things that he's done, like the Louis Vuitton stuff, the art show. You had like the Super Bowl stuff. You had Imagine Dragons album cover. You have DJ Khaled doing something with like his stuff in the back. Yeah, another one. And so I don't know what it is, but it's a teaser. So December 11th. Something
I think
that.
he's dropping his next cryptocurrency.
Well, yeah,
thing.
but he made it
Or his
sound like
crypto.
something. I don't know if it's just that or if there's more to
I
it.
think that's it.
Well, he
Because
didn't
on his
just say that.
stories
He was
yesterday,
like,
it
just
was
wait.
like next drop December 11th or whatever. And so then I sent him a message and I said I should put the signed Beeple, custom print that he did for me on sale at the same time and ride his coattails.
By the way, I have that in my own notes to keep you accountable for posting. I swear it's literally in my to-do list.
Here's the thing. I really would like to put it out there, and to sell it.
Buy that pool you want in the backyard. You can always get him to sign another one for you.
Yeah, I know, but like, I don't know. It's different. Like,
you should.
Part of me is like, oh yeah, I'll sell it, but like,
you agreed.
Someone will buy it for like $200 and then, or $100, and then it's just like, there's so much hassle trying to like get that sent out, and put into a nice little packaging.
Well, can't you
versus,
start the bidding higher?
I don't know. I have no idea how this crypto stuff
I know
works.
you have to document this whole thing, man. This is your crypto.
I mean, the
journey.
thing is, I've got two of his prints, both signed by him. So I could try out the one that's not, drawn penises all over, and then,
That's the trial run.
Yeah,
that's the trial run. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the one that has his own personal graffiti on top of,
I don't know, man. I think you'll get more money for the penises.
I agree.
Save that one.
That's
See, that's what I'm.
that's a sentence that's never been said before.
And then I feel like I don't know. I feel like it's kind of crappy that I'm just selling artwork that Mike did. I don't know,
he made you promise that he would endorse that was authentic on the air if you did this. You have to do it. It's in my notes. You got to do it, man.
Maybe I'll wait until January, because then if I do make a lot of money, I can write it off on my taxes next year.
Next year, yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. So go through your journey, but we'll see what it is. I didn't know if maybe there was more to it. He sounded like there was something secret going on. Something. He's cooking something up. I don't know. We'll see.
That's one of the tricky things with teasing things, and especially the longer out it is people start speculating and they make it bigger and bigger and bigger, and then no matter what it is they're releasing, it's like a letdown. Yeah. Calm down, everybody.
So we'll see, and then just some other updates here. First of all, got my 3090. I think I talked about that last week. Got the 3090 installed though. Showed up.
Oh yeah.
And this is interesting. I'm very happy with it. I had two 2080s.
Did you have any issues like where you had to install drivers and stuff like that?
No. I mean, I updated my drivers, but no. Mainly it's power. It's power, and I'm gonna have to get. I should order it now. A bigger power supply, because I only have a 1200 watt power supply. I had two 2080s and a 1060. I took out the 1060 and I put in the 3090, and it doubled my octane bench score.
Oh yeah.
So. The only problem is you run it at full force. I thought, okay, well, this thing is just going to shut off because the power supply doesn't have enough wattage. That wasn't the issue. The issue I did not think about is that the wattage draw on my battery backup unit is overwhelmed when I'm rendering, and the thing starts like beeping and making noises when I'm running octane bench.
Yeah.
So, something to think about.
I went from a 585 octane bench with my two cards. It was a 2080 and a 2070 Super. Now I've got two 3090s in there, and it's a 1285 or something like that. 1287. But man, it is like, I'm so sad that like the big job we just finished, like we don't have any.
You don't have anything now.
Work. We don't have any octane work right now.
Go.
So it's like, oh, I need something to test this.
You gotta do a short or something now, right?
I know. We'll do a Christmas short. Yeah.
There you go. So, I will. It's interesting. I pulled apart the system so much this year that I have enough pieces to make a whole nother computer. All I need is a case. I've got two Threadrippers sitting there doing nothing. I've got the new power supply that I need to order. I've got an extra motherboard, extra video cards. Like everything is there. Maybe I just need a little RAM or something, but that'll be cool. And
Impulse in the chat says you can always limit the power consumption with Afterburner. I thought about that as well.
Yeah, but I mean, CUDA though.
I mean, just buy the new.
Yeah. I don't want to stifle this thing. That powered, but power though. Yeah. So, loving it though, man. That thing is a chonky boy.
It is a chonky boy.
Man.
Yes. Yeah.
Freaking huge. So
I had an issue when I installed my second one. Like it was, I guess it was the way I installed it or something like that, or the monitors that it was using, because it would only see one of the cards at a time, but it didn't have the newest drivers, and I had to end up uninstalling my video drivers and then reinstalling them again in order to get it to work. I was really worried that I got like a bunk card,
Oh, I'll tell you what problem I did have. It was with you doing two screens with DVI to HDMI adapters. I actually did have an issue where it felt like the mouse was laggy. It's almost like it was converting to HDMI. So I had to move things around and use different cards, but other than that, it's fine. Chris, what is your setup? You don't talk too much about setups and things much, like as far as
I am not a hardware guy. It's just not an area that I'm interested in, so I don't focus on it. And I mean, honestly, all the 3090 stuff, I've paid virtually no attention because, I mean, first of all, I don't render that often.
Right.
And every time I render, everything I want to render, I can render overnight, no problem.
Right.
So I'm currently running two 1080s, and I haven't gotten to the point where it's like, oh, I need to make them do more. The point I do, that's when I'll upgrade. But even in the past, I always trusted like Chad Ashley to be like, oh, here's the good hardware.
Right.
Or he's somebody who likes to do the research and constantly have the most upgraded machine possible. Or I'm gonna upgrade when I need to.
Yeah. Yeah. There's I don't know. There's something satisfying about building yourself though, and so when I got that thing in there without breaking it, I was like, all right, all right.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like when I got my 3D printer, I got it as a kit so I could build it from scratch.
Nice.
And
That's
I
fun.
like those ideas, but when it comes to like computer hardware, I built my own machine one time and I had to do so much research to make sure everything, and this is years ago, much research to make sure that every part plugged into the right motherboard. And I don't know, you get that moment where it's like, oh, I'm going to have the new computer working today. Oh, I didn't have the right power supply. I guess I'm going to have to wait another 2 weeks before I can do anything.
Yeah.
And just so typically in the past, I have a good friend and it's like, hey, here's my budget. I want to get the best machine I can given this budget. And then the friend comes over and we physically build it together. So I'm participating. But just that act, I know PC Part Picker makes everything super easy these days. So that didn't used to exist, obviously. Yeah. So these days that would be a lot cooler. But there's a lot of risk. But yeah, there's definitely that huge satisfaction when you get it all put together.
Yeah, it's very scary building your own machine because you don't know. Like when I built my first one, I had to push really hard on the CPU in order to get the screw in for the Threadripper, and that scared the bejesus out of me.
Yeah.
Like I was like, I am ruining this computer right now. I am just totally messing this up. But yeah, like when you get it to post the first time, you're just like, yes. Yeah. I am a golden god.
I have not had any problems since. Now, technically, this wasn't my first build. I grew up with computers. My dad owned his own computer company back when like custom computers were more of a thing instead of just running a Best Buy, and so I grew up around it. I built them, but I hadn't really come back around and built one until a few years ago when I switched from Mac to PC. My first one, I had an awful time with. After that, it's been fine. I've been getting things to post, but even PC Part Picker can steer you wrong. You know, that's the problem I had. It told me to get this RAM, and the RAM technically was compatible, but it wasn't compatible with that motherboard unless you update it, which you couldn't do unless you had it running already. So it was like after, and it wasn't like it wouldn't post at all. It would kind of post, and you could start to install Windows, and then it would screw up. So after just 3 or 4 days of complete just pain, it's the only way I can describe it. Like going back and forth to Fry's, and they were looking at some things, and having my dad come over to help me, it was painstaking. It can be very painstaking, but it is satisfying. So,
well, what would make it to me so much more frustrating on the computer side is that that's kind of a means to an end. If you were just like, oh, I like building computers, and that's kind of a fun thing to do. But if you're like, oh, I need to do a job, or I've got some fun projects I want to work on, you just want a working machine. You're not there for the fun and satisfaction exclusively of building a machine. So like when I 3D printed and kind of designed my own quadcopter, like it was really fun, and I could tinker, and it was like it would fail, and I'd do another iteration. I was enjoying the process. But that's also when you accidentally melt your ESCs and catch it on fire in your bedroom. So there's always fun details of that.
Ooh, okay, I got that in my notes for later. We'll talk about that. Let me quickly
real quick another thing, when we got the 3090s, for some reason we were lucky enough to get the NVLink bridges.
Yes.
Yes.
Apparently they're rare.
apparently they're super rare, and I had no idea. I was just like, oh, I need an NV link, so I bought one, and then I was like, hey Dave, you need one? He's like, yeah, sure.
Heck yes, I do.
So I took a picture of my system and posted it in the hardware channel, and someone's like, you got an NV link? I've never seen an NV link like in the wild before, and I felt like the coolest person on our chat.
The new NV link.
The new NV link, yeah. For the 30 series ones.
Those power connectors are interesting because you gotta take the two 8-pins and put them into this thing that puts them together.
Yeah,
it's like this Y connector thing. But 48 gig of VRAM. What's up?
Yeah, baby.
What's up? That's a lot of VRAM.
The 3090s are rare enough, let alone getting the NV link. I was looking on eBay, and those things are going for like $400 a piece. We bought them for $80. It's like,
where at? Yeah. Everybody's gonna be looking for them.
I know. I got them at Best Buy.
Really? You got NV Link at Best Buy?
At Best Buy. Yeah. Just so here's the thing, like, and I think I've mentioned this before, the app Hot Stock. That's how we've been able to get our 3090s. We've gotten 3 3090s specifically through this app Hot Stock, and you can do if you download, it's Apple only. Sorry. But if you download it, it will give you notifications when that particular card goes on sale. So whichever one you want, you just say, this is it. Tell me from all the retailers. I think Best Buy is the only one selling the Founders Editions right now.
Yeah, I made sure.
NVIDIA's just, but you can do multiple things. You can put an Xbox on there. You can put a PS5. You have to pay. You have to pay if you want to do more than one thing. But
which is why I had Julie put the new Xbox on her phone.
Oh, did you?
So we can see when the Xbox is available. Because I'm still waiting for another 3090. So you got to put an Xbox on yours now.
Well, see, I know I have the 3090 still on there just in case you.
Oh, for me.
So one of us can get one
Thanks,
for you.
bro.
Yeah.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm looking out for you.
Real quick before we get into the meat of everything here, I did want to mention I don't have all the details yet because I don't think we're gonna find out until later today, but Jonathan Winbush this Friday is that the 4th? Is Friday the 4th? Yes, this Friday the 4th. Winbush is going to be on Epic's Twitch stream.
Ooh.
And he's going to be talking about the course and things on Epic's Twitch stream. So make sure that you not only check in and say hi on there and say what up, but also make sure that you wish him a happy birthday because that's also his birthday. So that's going to be a fun day.
He was born on the 4th?
Yes.
I'm the 3rd.
Well,
Sagittarius,
what a coincidence that your birthdays are on 2 separate days. I used to have a friend who would always say it's somebody's birthday every day, just constantly. Yeah. Did you know that? It's somebody's birthday every day.
It's even crazier. I think it's something like if you have 12 people in the room, there's a 50% chance that 2 of them have the same birthday.
Yeah. And there's a heat map too that shows when people's birthdays are on average. It's very interesting. I think it's because a lot of people get down on New Year's.
So the weather dictates a lot of things.
Or Valentine's Day.
Yeah. So so check that out, and I'll post on social whenever we find out the details of that. But also, of course, check out his course, Creating the Unreal, mograph.com/classes. You can also get information on Stop Being Afraid of Houdini. There's new updates that will be coming later on this year for 18.5. Mark is talking about that now. He's teasing a little bit. Also, if you check out Brandon Clements' Instagram and social things, you'll see that he's starting to tease some stuff for his course. He is moving full force on that now, so we can start talking about that a little. He's doing an RTX ray tracing and Unreal course. So make sure that you start following him on that. We'll be following his journey. And also there's the AR crash course, the mini course from Don Allen. And 2 other things I wanted to mention real quick. No, 3 other things. The Camp Mograph Fireside Chat Reunion will be next Thursday, the 10th. Make sure that you come join us. Aaron Sarofsky, Ryan Summers, and Barton Damer will be on. It's
going to be fun. It's like, since we couldn't all get together for Camp Mograph this year, I think it'll be a good reminder and refresher of what, how much things have changed over the past year, and like a good fun little reunion of sorts, you know.
And then we've got the 21st will be our holiday show with David Ariev and EJ Hassenfrost. So make sure that you check that out. If you haven't seen it before, check out the old ones. They're always a good time. We don't really talk about Mograph. We just drink.
Yeah. Well, Dave drank
I
a
drink,
lot.
at least.
He drank a lot. It was so funny because it was only like 1 o'clock and you're already drunk.
Yeah. I'm sitting there drinking scotch at 1 in the afternoon on a Monday. You don't know me. Yeah. But that's usually how it goes. It's always a fun week because everything's slowing down for the holidays and whatnot. We'll wear our worst sweaters. And so that's on the 21st. So that's it. And then we have gotten such a great response for our front page renders for our updates to our website. Yeah. So anybody who wants to put their render in the little video that plays on the front page and the little loop, please hit us up. And of course, we're going to credit you on there. And we just wanted to have stuff from the community members who have been involved, especially like in our Slack and things. If you want to find out more about our Slack or get in there, email us info@mograph.com. We've got a big old Slack. Chris, you've got a Slack too.
I do. Everybody's got a Slack these days.
Yeah.
Yeah, right now, I've just got rocketlassoslack.com, and you can go head over and join for free as long as you're cool. We only had to ban a handful of people total ever. So.
Yeah, that's us too. You got to be cool.
Yeah.
Got to be cool.
It's a pretty easy rule.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just don't be a jerk.
Don't be a jerk.
Don't be a jerk and you'll be fine.
It's pretty easy not to be a jerk.
Yeah.
You know, so check that out. And then real quick before we get into the topics, I did want to jump to Ravcock. What's your flavor?
What's your flavor?
This is where we talk about render engines and things. It's the abbreviation for all the renderers. I did want to mention that Octane Render 2021 preview is here.
Yeah, very exciting.
And
standalone only right now.
Standalone only. Yeah, I double checked.
We got to get that 2020.2 first.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that 2020.2.
This is a closed preview beta that's available. A brand new render AOV framework, Boolean geometry clipping, as Jules was talking about a couple weeks ago on the show. RTX hardware motion blur. I'm very excited about that.
Yeah. Very excited.
Very excited.
That'll be fun.
Because honestly, that's where I have like the most errors and lockups and problems is in motion blur.
Same here.
And I'm thinking that might be a big help. And then volumetric light linking, that's
oh yes.
Big.
Oh man, that's gonna be huge.
And then the multi-render thing as well. So just keeping an eye on that. You know, if we get a chance to play with it.
There was so I don't know if you've got it in the notes about 2021 with the new subscription models and stuff. Do you have that in there with Octane?
I don't have any more notes other than that. I think you do get a render something for free for a year.
They're doing like a Black Friday sale or something. Dang it, I wish I knew all the details, but basically you can sign up for the new subscription and it gives you like
I think it's
Embergen
a year.
And it's
World
like
Creator.
a year of World Creator and stuff like that. And then I think it gives you, I may be wrong, up to like 10 render nodes or something like that. I could be wrong.
You have to check that.
But also the what's the big one? There was something big with it, but I can't remember right now. Like free render credits.
Oh
as well,
yeah. I think it's like 100 render credits or something.
Like 100 render credits, which is crazy. That'll
I forget
get you
the exact
very far.
number, but yeah.
So
check that out. Chris, you've been getting into some render engines a little bit, right?
I've gone full redshift when I am rendering, and once again, it goes to I tend to go vanilla cinema, and because Maxon's kind of, they own redshift now. That seems like a good. If I'm going to go as vanilla as possible, that's the way to go. But
I imagine that the nodes
I don't have a specific allegiance. That's my motivation.
Yeah.
So,
but the nodes have to be fun for you, I think, right? Because they're like native nodes, so. That's got to be fun to play with. Have you been playing? Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was even playing with the node space for Redshift, which is something that I think flew under the radar to a large degree, even to me. But it does unlock it's just so much better than the old Espresso interface, the new scene nodes interface. So.
Tell me about your experience with that, because we have been kind of finishing projects and kind of stuck in like older Octane, older Cinema. My plan for tonight is to actually get all my stuff running in R23, because I just haven't had the time to get everything up and running. What is your experience so far in R23? As far as, do you have any, is there anything that you have to go back a version for, or do you feel like you're solid on 23 now?
I mean, solid on 23 for sure. But what's funny is right now, my regular live stream is on break, and I've been very focused on getting some plugin stuff worked on and getting that ready to get out the door. And while we're prototyping, we prototype everything in R20, where it's just a solid old version that we know that we can. Yeah, that's as far back as we're planning on keeping everything moving forward. So I've been spending so much time in R20, and everything will work in the future. But in R20, I didn't have any of the renderers installed, so it's just testing everything. So like the last 2 months has been so much R20, which is funny, but
same here.
What
I've been on, I think I've been on 21 for the past year, all year.
Yeah, me too.
This year.
The frustrating part is that the interface change happened between those versions. So it's like, oh, wait, Espresso tag is here. No, wait, it's here. So flipping those two modes in your brain is crazy.
Luckily, I always keep everything. I still get confused.
I do too. I'm always searching.
What's the name of the tag? Where's it at? Where's the tag? I don't know what tag this is under. Yeah.
The new layout is so much more intuitive to me. Like we had the old one memorized, but the new one is like, where would I put that? Oh, there it is. I just absolutely love it.
It's true. It is in where you would expect it. It's just still, I'm like, what compositing tag? Wait, what? Where?
Yeah.
Like, oh, of course. This makes complete sense.
I don't have all the drop downs memorized yet.
Yeah.
You know, to know where it would be. So I literally have to go by one by one and say, would that be there? No.
Shift C, man. No. Shift C.
Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything missing that you feel? Actually, no. Okay, new question. Take two. What do you feel is your favorite thing in R23 so far?
Well, I mean, my favorite thing is the scene nodes, but it's a fun toy to play with right now. It is not production ready.
Right.
So seeing it and what it's available to do, and I'm like obsessed with keeping everything procedural and parametric whenever possible, and building scene nodes is just like right up my alley, and seeing the potential of where everything is going to go is absolutely amazing. The tiny little feature that's my favorite, and in my R23 What's New video, I did a big shout out to if you increase the length of your timeline from the default 90 up to whatever, like 300, you'd have to manually drag the bar to fill it. And they made it so that if you change the number, it automatically scrolls up. I was like, oh, this is such a great feature. I love it. And then I was talking with Rick from Maxon, and he's like, oh, we added that in because I was watching your streams and seeing you constantly have to fix it. So that was added in for you. I was like,
that's funny.
I was like, I did a special shout out as that is one of my favorite features, and it was actually designed for me. So that made me happy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great.
Let me ask you this. So I'm assuming you're on the betas for all the upcoming stuff, so how well versed in the software are you by launch time? I'm assuming that you have to be, since you're always showing off the new stuff on your streams.
As much as you can say.
Yeah,
you would. Well, I mean, yes, I am on the beta and sometimes the alpha, depending on what the software is.
Right.
Having said all that, first of all, I'm a terrible beta tester. I'm actually a really good beta tester, but I'm a terrible at actually replying and getting involved in other people's stuff. I like. I probably shouldn't talk about it, but as we're building some of the tools that we're working on right now, we are finding some deep, old school bugs that must have been in cinema for like 10 plus years now, and we're like, how is this a bug?
You're the first person that's used them.
Yeah, we're the first ones who have discovered these, and it's like they're consistent. It's crazy. Now you would think that because I'm going to be recording a what's new video that I'd be like super keeping up and figuring out what's coming out. I am so bad about that, where I'm always focused kind of on the current project, and as they're working on it, interface is changing, settings are changing, things aren't super stable. So honestly, I don't start looking at it until like the week before.
Yeah.
And sometimes even less time than that. And part of that is me going the old school route when suddenly it would be a random day. It'd be like, here's these new features. And it'd be like, whoa. And I'd like download the demo that day and then start playing around. And I would absolutely love doing that. And learning the new software is one of my favorite things, to the point where I remember when like R12.5 came out. And that's when a bunch of the dynamics tools came out, like all the connectors and motors and whatnot. And by sheer coincidence, that night there was going to be a Chicago C4D meeting in person, actually at the Apple store on Michigan Avenue. And it was like, okay. And I was like, okay, I'm going to learn this new version and do a presentation on it tonight. And that's what I would do. And actually, that's the night that Nick had asked me to Nick showed up to that meetup and he said, hey, can you record this tutorial for my website? Which is the first video I ever recorded for Grayscale Gorilla. But
that's funny.
But I just first of all, I kind of like that high pressure situation of like, I have this short time, I have to learn it. Here's the essence of it to whatever degree I can explain it. I kind of shot myself in the foot this last time because there were so many new features and it's not easy to learn scene nodes. And then you get all those really specific tools like the motion transfer, very specific. And there's the pose library now for doing like really good lip syncing and whatnot, or building the
I haven't even touched 23. I need to get into it.
And it's another really specific tool. You have to use it in a very particular way to get it to work. And then on top of that, you got Magic Bullet Looks, which was not something I was familiar with beforehand, and tons of little changes in the timeline. It was like, considering this was a half-year release, it was an incredible amount of new features, and I killed myself learning all those features, coming up with what I thought were cool demos, and actually getting that recorded and launched on time. So you see that stuff, and it's like, these are my raw ideas of how these things work. But I as much as I hate doing that, I also kind of love that process. So
yeah. It's nice, like when you're actually able to sit down in front of and learn the new stuff. Sometimes we're so caught up in projects. Like, for example, this whole year I've been on R21, opened 22 once, and then 23 was announced. I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'm going to download that, and it's like, I didn't even get a chance to learn the UV tools, let alone any of the stuff in 23, Wow.
Yeah, and it's December, right? It's December, so I'm sure we're going to have like, something else come up next year already. I mean, before we know it, I'll be finally settled into 23, and I'll have all my shortcuts and everything all set, and be like, oh, it's time for another release. So, whoops.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Somebody was asking. Oh, I lost it here.
They're asking when
are you
streaming?
Start
streaming?
Yeah, when do you go back live?
My official plan is early January. We sort of do like a school type schedule. So when schools are kind of going back in, but I think early January will be the regular live streams again, which is always fun. And it's really important in my head to keep these separated as distinct seasons, and there's kind of this break. And so the plan is early January, and I fit in almost like 40 episodes a year, which is a lot of episodes. And actually, I've got I haven't announced this anywhere. I'm still not even 100% sure on what the plan is going to be, but I have an idea as we get ready to launch the new website. I've been getting contacted decently often on people who want to essentially get one-on-one training, and it wasn't really something I'd ever considered too much of.
Yeah.
But one person had they were watching the live streams, and they were like, hey, I've got this thing. Would you mind well, essentially, as we worked it out, it was the idea of like, oh, it's pretty much doing a regular live stream, but there's only one person doing the driving, and it's a paid thing. So it's like Rocket Lasso consulting, and it's like, oh, here's a 1 hour or 2 hour stream for one person who drives the entire thing. And if I'm going down a route they don't like, then we change the direction. And I'm thinking about making that like an official little part of the business, like put that up on the site, and you can schedule it and figure them out. And I think it's even like, oh, there's one price if it's private, and a different price if I can like stream it for everybody on Patreon as well. And get a little bit more of an audience. And honestly, having the audience there helps, because sometimes somebody in the audience is like, oh, wait, try this. And then it's a little bit crowdsourced. So I did one of them, and it was actually really fun. The person was really happy with it. And I'm thinking about doing a little bit more of that.
There's something to say about being able to pick someone's brain who knows so much more about a program than you do. You know?
Oh yeah, I'd love to do that with Ableton.
I learned Cinema4D by Dave sitting down next to me and teaching it to me. You know, and being able to, when we were working in a studio together, being able to pick everyone's brain about, you know, how would you do this? How would you do that? You know, it's amazing how much you can get from that.
We've done that before.
That's amazing.
We had somebody that watched the show or some tutorials or something hit us up, and on a weekly basis for a while we were having, you know, 1 or 2 hour sit down and paid I'm like, what do you want to do? He's like, oh, teach me about this thing. Okay. You know, it's kind of fun.
It's fun that you learn a lot through teaching as well. Oh, but before I forget, just for clarity, if the Rocket Lasso consulting concept would be in addition to the regular live streams, not replacing them.
Right.
Because it's always been super important to me when we're doing when we're doing a regular Rocket Lasso live, that the questions are coming live from the audience. I don't know what there's going to be. There's never pre-rolled. They're never like pre-curated from Twitter ahead of time. Nope, I have no idea what's coming, and let's just try and make it the best we can. Yeah, and that's where you get the best stuff.
Winbush wants to jump on the next season.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Figure out some.
Jonathan's totally got to join. Nick Campbell will definitely be a guest in this next season for sure. I'm getting better at getting guests on digitally, because I was having people physically come to the studio, but now, you know, digitally is obviously a lot better. Yeah. And thank you guys, especially you, Dave, for helping me get the setup going for getting a call going. It's always worked smoothly.
Getting this XSplit thing going.
Except when XSplit freezes. It'll keep on streaming, but it won't let me click a button to switch the screen. But it hasn't screwed up too much. Only when I have a guest on, which is a little bit of a challenge. But
I wonder what
hit that data cap.
I had that problem when they updated at one point, but since I went to version 4, I have not had that problem. Are you on version 4?
I got the new version now, but as the season wrapped up with the last guest, I had Gavin on, and we were doing some of those flamingo loops. Actually, it's a dancing elephant, which was really fun. and it's always terrifying every time I switch the screen, because we might get locked onto that one permanently.
Yeah.
I had that actually happen during the Maxon stream at one point. I'm like, I can't do anything unless we shut the stream down. It sucks. It sucks. But it's been fine in version 4. And you know, I keep bouncing between that and OBS, and I have things that I like about both of them. And part of me is like, I wish I had $1 million where I could pay a developer to make a custom piece of software that does all the things that I want it to do in a streaming piece of software, because nobody does what I want streaming software to do. So I don't know, maybe someday, but let's see, there was another question. Oh no, I know what I was gonna say, because Jeremy Thompson here in the chat said Tom Cosm does one-on-one training in Ableton Live. You know, when we were talking about that live situation and being able to ask somebody, you know, in person, like how to do something, Matt, like the other day, he hit me up with a question for Ableton, right?
It's so stupid.
Just called me real quick.
It was a dumb question.
It's not a dumb question, because literally this is the same question that I had when I was using Ableton and I was moving chords around on the piano roll editor, right? And I'm just like moving the notes around, but you can't hear the note that it's playing. You want it to play as you're moving it up and down the scale. And whenever I would do that, nothing would happen. I would Google it and I would search. It's such a simple question that there were no answers. If you've ever been in that situation, like,
oh, that's the magical place where you just need the person that you can talk to. It's like I know so little. I'm too dumb in this topic to even Google the right question to get an answer.
Right. That's exactly what it was. And it took me forever. And I finally figured out there's a little itty bitty headphone button on the top left, kind of inside of there, and you turn that on and then you can hear it. And as soon as Matt called me and he started asking me, I'm like, oh, I know what that is, because I looked for it forever and I figured it out. You need somebody sometimes like that. You know, just to help you get going. Where are the buttons?
I've really enjoyed playing with it. But I feel like I'm so noob that, like, so the other day I was writing a ska song, because, you know, my love for ska music, you know. But the thing is, the horns, they sound so electric. They sound so synthesized. They don't sound real.
Oh, you gotta sample.
Like, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But it's like, and also like, so I feel this is one reason I say don't ever make fun of noobs, when they're just asking a simple question online, because you don't know, they may be super versed in one thing, but they're not versed in other things, And so like I was embarrassed to ask on the Ableton channel because in our Slack, because I kept on previewing these drum tracks and I was like, oh, okay, I just want that beat. I'm going to bring it in. But it wouldn't actually like bring in the beat. It would just bring in the drums. And so I didn't realize that I had to make my own MIDI track
first. It's just
first.
a sample.
Exactly. Yeah. And then build the drum beat off of that.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, you could find more, like Tesla Rock says, there's more quality horn sound banks that you can find, and stuff that's like actually sampled and not MIDI instruments.
Yeah.
You know, and then you can customize them, you can repitch them, you can,
Yeah.
You put all of them into the drum sequencer.
I have to say.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Meanwhile, I'm making techno.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a lot easier.
It's funny. I'm excited to make, like, I bought Ableton, and I'm getting, hopefully getting a electronic drum set for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to go back in my corner right there. And so like I can actually play and make, punk rock, ska music, whatever, in Ableton when people normally use it for like EDM and stuff like that. It's like, nah, I'm just gonna make ska music.
We got to get together too, so I can give you your Christmas present.
Yeah, I haven't ordered yours yet. I know what I'm getting you.
Oh, sweet.
Hopefully you like it. It's whatever.
Well, we're gonna, we got to meet up for sushi or something.
Yeah.
And we'll exchange gifts.
Yeah. See, we live in Texas. Texas doesn't care about people, so nothing's closed down.
Yeah, nothing's closed. We can just.
Yeah.
Not that I'm going to go into a.
I've been watching The Good Place this past week, or the past few weeks. Have you seen The Good Place? Have you seen the whole thing?
I've seen some of it.
It's a good show. It's a really good show. It's on Netflix, right? It's 4 seasons. It's got an excellent ending. I can barely get through it like 5 minutes in without crying my eyes out, because it's so good. But I was thinking about it, and the whole argument with this show is that there are no bad people, bad people can become good people. And after this entire pandemic, I have realized that there are a ton of bad people out there. It's like, just wear your friggin' mask, you idiot,
Man.
And it's like, you are all bad people, all of you, bad people. I've already had coronavirus. I have antibodies on my, I have seen it. I have tested myself 3 times. I have antibodies yet. I still wear a mask for everyone else.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
Anyway. So we were talking before the show, and this is like not quite on topic, but it's sort of on topic, is where you live. You're actually talking about you've got bandwidth caps, and somebody who's in the industry, who's doing a lot of video and Dropboxing or streaming or whatever that is, has to possibly deal with bandwidth caps. And I just thought it was interesting, like, how far over your caps are you going right now?
Yeah, and how much is it costing you a month?
It's an extra. I'm trying to remember what my base price is, but yeah, in Chicago we've pretty much got. There's a couple options possibly, but I use Comcast, which I think is the fastest possible one that I can get access to. Google Fiber is down the road, but they don't go to smaller buildings, and Comcast puts data caps on, and I only hit the cap at the very end of the month. So it's like the 27th, the 28th of the month, I start getting the warnings of like, oh, you're going over the cap. But as soon as you do one little drop over the cap, it's like, oh, another $50.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And if I went over there again, it'd be another $50. And the little extension of that cap is it's not that much more. It's enough to get me through those last 3 days, but it's just so frustrating. And it is literally the best internet I can get from Comcast. So really,
so dumb.
That reminds me of back in the day, like when you had to like watch your minutes on your phone.
Oh yeah. Every text is costing you more money.
Yeah.
I was on
nights and weekends. You're 9 o'clock after 9 o'clock. You can call for free.
For a while, I was before I met my wife, I was very poor, and I had a Metro PCS phone, and you'd pay $50 and you'd get like 500 minutes or something like that. But then you'd get free nights and weekends. The nights started at 7. And I'm like, okay, cool. So hopefully no one calls me. But then once my wife and I started talking, you know, and dating or whatever, she would constantly take me over those numbers. And so I ended up having to spend an additional $50. And I was so poor at the time. There were days when I wouldn't have a phone because I just couldn't afford to, you know, pay for the overages after 500 minutes or so, you know?
Do you think that's going to be a thing, like, with us here in Texas? Because I don't know anybody that has limits in Texas.
I didn't even know there were data caps. You know, I've only seen them before on some of the lower tiers, you know, but like I always pay for the fastest internet service and stuff like that in order to not have to deal with that.
How much is your cap?
It's even, I don't know what mine is, but what's even crazier with Comcast is in order to get like the best deal and the best, I only want internet. I don't want television. I don't want cable. But they bundle them together where you have to get the cable box in order to get cheaper internet. I'm like, I don't want this plan. I'm literally not going to plug this box in. And they're like, well, it's the only way you can get it. And I guarantee you that this is so that they can sell their cable packages when somebody's advertising. They're like, oh, we have this many boxes out in the world.
Right.
Because, you know, less and less people are using cable as they go to the streaming services and just watching things online. So they're like, oh, we just need to keep these numbers up even though nobody's actually watching.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous.
Here's the thing about the streaming services, though. Like, I pay for cable. The number of times that I have actually turned on my cable box and watched live TV, I can count on one hand, you know, in the 2 years that I've lived in my house. But the number of times that I have logged into a channel like CNN or Nick Jr. or HBO or something that is bundled in and been able to watch a show as soon as I want, like on demand, like that is the one positive of actually paying for the bundle. Yeah. The Bundaroo.
AT&T fiber has been great. I mean, we got a gigabit up and down and just streaming all the things.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Once that Elon Musk, you know, Starlink comes out.
Yeah, I signed up for the beta, but
did you really?
Yeah.
How does it work?
Did you see there was a terms of service with the Starlink that you have to agree that no one on Earth has sovereignty over Mars? Like, you have to agree to that.
That's pretty great.
In the terms of service.
In addition to that, when they first launched the first batch for the public, or for their beta testers, the public beta is called Better Than Nothing, because they can't guarantee like quality service yet because they've only launched like a tiny percentage of the total satellites. So it's just like, well, it's better than nothing.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's really funny.
Yeah. I don't really know much about it. I know what it is, but I don't really know any of the details. Is it like how is it served? Is it a 5G?
Basic, you get a little satellite dish essentially. It's going to look like an AT&T type disc. It's motorized and it will like rotate to see the best angle on the sky.
That's cool.
And the interesting thing about the overall satellite thing and why this is probably such a big deal overall is they're in a way lower orbit. So because they're in such a low orbit, they need tons of satellites, like tens of thousands of satellites to cover everything. Most internet satellites are really far away and you don't need that many up in the sky,
but
and
it's much slower,
you'll be able to see
right?
it. But now you're talking about the amount of lag. We're talking large fractions of a second to actually bounce and come back down. These are so close to the Earth that you start getting like really good ping, and this is going to be a big game changer as far as having connectivity all over the planet. It's really interesting. And there's actually a lot of different companies kind of competing in this space, but it's going to be hard to compete with a company who's literally like, well, we got a bonus rocket here. We're afraid it might blow up. So let's just send up some more satellites.
Yeah, right?
Why not?
So I want to talk about 3D printing a little bit because I'm very interested.
I've been me want a 3D printer.
Yeah. And like you've been doing some really cool stuff, and not just like basic 3D printing. You've been exploring some other avenues and things, and I want to hear about your quadcopter catching fire and things too. So like, where did you start in 3D printing? Like what was your first? Okay, I'm gonna buy this thing and go from here.
The first printing I ever did was going back, man, a lot of years. It's got to be like 13 years ago, where there's I had done a little short film project with some friends. We had this animated robot monkey that would like shave you while you sleep. It was pretty fun. But as a Christmas gift, I put the monkey character into all these different poses, and I went to a company that had the powder-based 3D printing. Mm-hmm. So it lays down a layer of powder and then glues it and powder. So I got a bunch of those printed up, and they're really cool. One's on the shelf behind me somewhere, but so that was really cool, and that was the only thing I'd done for years. And I started getting into my own 3D printing. The company I used to work for, I had left the company, but they got a 3D printer and they weren't using it, so I borrowed it for like an extended period, and that's when I got into the quadcopter design. And then I finally got my Prusa i3 Mark III, which is, it's about a year old. Actually, I think I had ordered it on Black Friday. I waited the extra 3 months and be like, okay, I'm going to order everything I need on Black Friday to get the best deals. And it's been really fun. I actually haven't gotten starting my own company, I have a little bit less time to just tinker around with it, but it's super fun. You can run so many different materials through there. I mean, these days, I want lots of detail, and you really start having to go with the resin-based printers instead of the plastic extruding printers.
Resin-based ones look so good.
They are really cool, and they're so detailed, but it also goes to, there's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot more complicated.
Curing.
You have a lot more, curing, and the resin stinks, and like it's dangerous, and it's messy and sticky, and it ends up going where there can be a lot of waste where you can, it's constantly creating a lot of resin, and then you're only printing a really tiny thing in this giant pool of resin, and you can only reuse it so many times until you can't pour it back in again.
Yeah.
So there ends up being a lot more waste on it, and even things like the tray can end up being a consumable, so you can only use it for a couple months, and you have to kind of throw the tray away because it's not going to work anymore. So it's a lot more wasteful, which is why I'm hesitant. But you can't argue with the detail you get from those things.
The detail is so good.
But the stuff you're designing, are you designing in Cinema 4D and then moving it over to your,
Everything, of course, is in Cinema. I've actually gone through and done some fairly complicated rigs and even written code to help me like translate something into the correct scale, and that gets exported out to an STL. And I'm like obsessed with like precision, and this is not the best medium to work in for precision because I love friction fit, where there's like no glue. Everything will like slot together so snugly that it just stays together. I do that for the laser cutter as well. I was doing the same thing I think the reason I got into that is I love like efficiency, and I hate wasting material. And when I was designing the original quadcopter, I was designing like truss, where I could print a layer of truss and then, connect 4 pieces of truss as flat pieces that were printed, and then you don't have all this waste. Essentially, there's no support material if you design that way. And I started designing them to like snap into each other, because in my first design, I was using all these screws, and it took so long to screw everything in. And then the design would have to be iterated, and have to take all the screws out again and put them back in. It'd take hours, and your fingers would be like killing you just from like holding a tiny screwdriver. So I built my original quadcopter, and eventually I ended up going somewhat brute force, where it's like, okay, all this truss isn't working. I'm gonna make these more solid pillars. And that got strong enough, but probably because of the limitations of my design. And I was going on like different forums and figuring out the different motors and what were good combinations. And at the end of the day, it worked and it flew and I could control it, but I wasn't getting as much thrust as you would want. Where when I said like climb, when I give it full power, it would very quickly hit the peak where the motors didn't have enough to balance itself out. So I didn't have that much lift. So it's like, oh, okay, I've got to upgrade everything. So I upgraded the motors, and I got bigger propellers, and I got carbon fiber propellers, and I had to like extend the entire body out and make it bigger to be able to hold everything. I had a bigger battery, but I didn't upgrade the electronic speed controllers. So I'm testing this thing, and I'm in my bedroom, and I'm like revving it up, and it's got these bigger motors, and it's getting louder and louder and louder. And I'm like starting to get scared of this thing. And I got these glass French doors in my bedroom. So I go on the other side of these doors because it was like the volume, like how loud it was twice as loud as the previous iteration of it. And I've got these carbon fiber blades on it. So I was like, okay, this thing's starting to scare me. And so I'm behind these glass doors.
To turn it off or anything. Just get yourself to a safe distance.
Yeah, you still have to test it, and you have to do rapid iteration. I mean, when I did the first iteration, like it was in the bedroom, and I didn't do anything fancy. It was like I stayed like within a foot of the floor, and I was just like drifting back and forth. Like, okay, it works now. I'll go outside. So it was essentially the same plan. But now I'm hiding behind these glass doors, and I'm giving it more speed and more speed. And because of bigger battery, bigger motors, it's heavier. So it's like more power, more power, more power. And it's getting so loud, it's scary. And it finally gets enough power, and it immediately tilts over. A rotor catches the carpet. The whole thing flips upside down and then catches on fire.
Oh my gosh.
All of the guys like, oh, this is happening now. So, but yeah, because I didn't upgrade the electronic speed controllers, it couldn't handle all the power that was going through it, and one immediately caught on fire when I wasn't even at like half thrust. And I was like, okay, let's put this hobby on pause. I've actually still got the entire thing in a container, but I haven't gone back to it because I mean, once again, I wanted to like understand the entire process going through. So it didn't have any of the fancy features of like, it didn't know anything. All it knew how to do was to balance, and I had to control everything else. So the one with the slightly lighter version, the earlier version, I went to a park with a friend, and it's the first time I tried to do any like significant flying. And so I was like getting up pretty high, and then it would start to lose a little bit of signal and start drifting off to the side, and there was no like return to home or anything.
Yeah.
So it was just like, it's just like, run, chase it. I don't know where it's going to go.
Yeah.
And then, it would then recover. It was a scary process. And all the nice high end ones that are out there now, it's like, it's almost impossible to mess them up now.
Yeah.
But it was a super fun learning experience. And I always wanted to get a little bit more into electronics and figure out how everything runs, and designing the entire body from scratch. I mean, this is going back a couple years for those first iterations. I remember I was going to do a presentation about it at Half Res one year. And the plan had been I was going to like fly it, but I was like, oh, I'm too scared of flying this over an audience with hundreds of people. So but one of the other people that helps with Half Res, I had said, oh, I'm thinking of doing a presentation about the 3D printing of my quadcopter. And he's like, that's the most 2016 sentence I've ever heard.
That's funny.
How big was the one with the carbon fiber? Like how big are we talking? Like the size of like a Mavic or something, or bigger? Or?
The actual body would probably stretched out to be, I don't know how you judge this, like,
okay,
I don't know, about 2 foot diagonal.
Yeah.
But that's not counting the propellers, which is going to add quite a few inches on either side.
Wow. Okay.
Do you have any professional ones, like, or semi-professional ones, like a Mavic or anything now?
I don't, and it's the kind of thing where I constantly have to stop myself from buying one because I don't have any practical reason to do it. It's I go skiing once a year, and it's I'm not doing any fancy filming really, and I have friends who all own it. So if ever I needed a shot of something, I have friends who could do it.
Yeah.
But then there's stories of friends who got a brand new one, and they were in Chicago, and you have to be really careful about where you can fly these things, and they're out and they're over the river and they're like flying it, and then it was their first time flying it, and it flies out over the river, catches a power line, falls in the river, and it floats away. It's like, well, there it goes, goodbye.
It's gone. I have a friend who did that.
Costco has a really good deal on Mavic Minis right now, like the new Mavic Minis. They're like $300.
Yeah.
And they're cool looking. They're in this little glass case, about the size of your fist.
And they'll fly like 5 miles and come back. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And the way they fold up these days, and it's so cool. So I mean, it's a super fun hobby to get into. I actually got interested in it when I started first seeing the drone racing. Yeah. And it was actually a really bad idea because those are actually the smaller ones. But then when I decided to build my own, I was like, no, I'm going to make a bigger one, which of course scales everything up, and it's a lot scarier. Yeah. Like you could probably crash one of those tiny ones into yourself. You're not really going to hurt yourself too much. But like my bigger one with carbon fiber, it's like, dude, you're going to like take off a finger or something if you're not careful.
Oh yeah, it's like those people who did the helicopter, remote control helicopter stuff before drones were kind of a bigger thing.
Oh yeah.
And you would literally, it would kill you. It would chop you in half if it hit you. So I
know a guy who his kid goes to the same Taekwondo as my kid, you know, and we chat, and he builds these drones himself and races them with the VR goggles and everything.
Yeah, I bought the VR goggles.
You know?
Wow.
That's crazy.
But I never got mine to the point where I was confident to wear the goggles. So I would let a friend wear the goggles as I manually flew it around. But I mean, that was kind of the dream. But essentially, I like I said, I scaled it up. And as I scaled it up, it got too scary to fly and test. So the project kind of stalled there. It's like, okay, I shouldn't be going bigger. I should be going smaller.
Yeah. Become too powerful. Yeah. So when you're designing stuff in 3D, this is something that I'm dealing with is I'm kind of a sloppy modeler in Cinema4D to begin with, right? And so when I do put something together, I have to be a little more precise, but sometimes I have internal pieces of geometry. How do you manage the internal geometry? Like say, okay, let's just say you have a sphere and a cube. Let's make it easy, right? You have a sphere and a cube and you stick them together. And now there's geometry, some geometry from that cube inside of the sphere. I personally was using, gosh, what is that plugin called? The nitro.
Yeah, nitro something.
It gets rid of the internal geometry. It just kind of makes it an outer shell.
Mesh. Is it nitro mesh or
Yeah, I don't remember.
I don't remember.
Well, you've actually got a couple options for that these days. Well, first of all, I used to be a big critic of the Cinema4D Bool object, but you know what? It's actually, while it's not amazing. If you turn on, and they actually changed the defaults, and I wonder if they changed the defaults because I started telling everybody like these should be the defaults, because if you hide new edges, actually you can start nesting a series of bools, and they tend to work pretty well. I wouldn't animate them that way, but as long as if you're just doing a model, that can work really well, and so you can Boolean model properly and keep things pretty clean with n-gons. There's always some cleanup at the end. So that's one method. Second, there's a bunch of different softwares like where you export your STL file that can actually go to a 3D printer. And depending on the software, if there's intersecting geometry, it's just like, oh, that's a single volume. Like just draw the line. And it's as if essentially you do no Boolean modeling and it just figures itself out and you don't have to worry about it. And then, like you're saying, there's the Nitro Man plugin, but now we have the amazing volume builder and mesher inside of Cinema. So once you're sending this up, it's not like you're going to be animating this thing. So you just take whatever model you have and you throw it in, and you just keep on and making your voxel size smaller and smaller and smaller until it's got all the detail you could possibly want, and it does not matter at all what you fed in. And it's just going to work right out of the gate. It's one of the first things I did, actually. I think in my first presentation when they came out with that, I was like, look, you could use this for 3D modeling. It's amazing.
Oh, yeah, Magic Emerge. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Sage got it.
Thanks, Sage.
Yeah.
Sage,
no, that's actually, now that you bring that up, I do remember last year I was working on some sort of model that I was trying to print out, like a Christmas ornament or something. I was having trouble with it, and that was actually my solution, was to just use the volume builder, because the resolution, well, number one, you don't have to worry about the UVs because you're just printing it out one color, but the resolution on a printer is not that high to begin with.
Exactly. So. Yeah. Well, yeah, you don't need it to be better than like a millimeter or whatever the case may be, or a couple millimeters. So yeah, you don't have to worry about that at all. And the big thing isn't so, especially with modern like exporters for 3D printers, it's not so much about, and I guess these probably handle them too, but it's not so much about intersecting volumes. It's about there being a hole in your mesh. If there's a hole in your mesh, if it's not watertight, then it could get confused where it's like, oh, you want it to be hollow, you want it to be thin, because what's the difference between like a Christmas ornament that's a solid like orb or one that's got a hole in it? You really just want the shell with a hole in it. It doesn't know what you want. So when you put into a Cinema volume, then you are now seeing that final end result, and it's really easy to fly through and everything after the fact.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to Rocket Lasso, what else do you have going on right now? What do you, as much as you can say, what do you have planned? What do you have planned coming up for the next year or so?
Yeah, it's always interesting and challenging. Like, we're trying to figure it out, and I can get a little bit, what's the right word? I get obsessed with a tool being super duper robust. So we end up trying really hard to make it make sure it works in every case and every exception. And so we end up making things exponentially difficult on ourselves. And something we've been doing recently, and I've mentioned this kind of in passing in some smaller audiences. But we've been working for over a year now on some spline tools. And the idea was to make a big pack of spline tools. And as we've been working on these, other people have slowly started sprinkling out various spline tools. And I've communicated with some of them. But it's getting to the point where it's like, okay, we're being so meticulous and so robust and making sure these spline tools can do everything we possibly want them to, that we're not shipping them. And, you know, as everybody probably knows, like, you know, there's two halves of the equation of actually putting something out in the world. You can make whatever you want, but if you always keep it locked away and nobody gets it, then what's the there's the level of like, what's the point? Why did you even make it? So we had this one goal of like, oh, we're going to package them all up. And, you know, we've kind of been working on a lot of them in parallel. And one kind of gets done. It's not 100% done, but we'll move on to the next one. So I think we're shifting the business model a little bit, where we're going to start like releasing them one at a time, like really like finish one up, get it out there, finish one up, get it out there. And potentially start bundle, you know, there'll be a constant bundle that moves along with them to keep them paired up. That's a recent conversation that we've had about kind of a little shift in the business model. And then, we were talking about some like secret plans before the show about various things. And that gets you to the entire topic of, do you announce things? Like how far ahead of time do you say, hey, here's a thing, here's this cool thing, because there's so many pitfalls there. The philosophy I've always been I've always liked is kind of the Maxon philosophy. At least it used to be their philosophy. I think they've been shifting things recently, but essentially they wouldn't even mention anything until it's pretty much like, hey, this is shipping, or like, here, we're demoing it, you can have your hands on it in a month, here's the date. Where it's very specific, very defined, but it's really easy to mention something. It's like, oh, here's this cool feature I just added to this plugin we're working on, and then that feature, for whatever reason, it's like, oh, actually there's limitations, or it makes it 10 times as slow, so we shouldn't include it. And now there's an expectation that now people really want it, and even just mentioning it, like as soon as you tease out, like for us, as soon as I tease out something, it's immediately there's people who are like, I need that right now. I'm on a project right now. I need that. And so you start feeling bad that it's not out there. But at the same time, I don't know, you building hype up and then letting people know, hey, here's a cool thing coming out and you can do these cool things with it. So I don't know. I'm not a natural marketer. I don't know how to market things very well. So trying to wrap my head around this and how much I'm somebody who would keep it very close to the vest until it's like ready to go. But now we're shifting to like try and launch these at a more frequent, you know, with a bigger frequency, quicker frequency. And how much should it be like, oh, here's a tease, or we just added this feature and check it out, it's really cool, and get excited for it, because it drives me crazy to not be showing these things off when I'm like, this is a really cool thing. So got to figure that out. And so we've been building a list of the order we want to release them. But what's funny is we've been working on these for so long that they're designed to work with each other. They're designed where it's like, oh, like this tool doesn't have a feature because there's a standalone tool that you know, that functionality has been extracted, so it combines really well. And now it's like, well, if they're not all getting released together, then these tools feel like they need that functionality independently. So it gets to be it's interesting.
It's hard to determine when to start. And I could see that, you know,
and when to stop.
And when to stop. Absolutely. That's screwed me up a few times where I'm like, I want to say years ago, I was like, oh, I'm gonna build this furniture builder, you know, just to build like sofas and chairs in espresso, right? And I was like, okay, cool. And then I start building it. I'm like, oh, this is really neat. You know what? This could also be a coffee table. Oh, this could be a bookshelf. And I was like, let's do the ultimate furniture builder where you can do anything. And it's like, and then it eventually just fizzled out because it's like, it became too big.
You can't ship it. And it even goes to, and I'm trying to figure it out. There's a handful of the tools we've been working on, the spline tools, that I feel like we went too far. We made it too big. It's like, oh, we made it so it could do, to a degree, it's like, oh, we made this tool so it could do so much stuff that, you know, it gets to a point where there's so many parameters where you're like, this is not good. You know, it's supposed to be good design is when you can't take anything else away from it. And you know, you kind of follow the cinema paradigms and make sure that things are behaving the way somebody who's using cinema expects them to. So while I love doing that type of interface design, it's like my favorite type of design, which is we're in a very specific box that Cinema puts you in. It's like there's only certain types of parameters. You're going to be on a gray interface with these types of settings. How do you make it look good? How do you make it flow? I love doing that kind of thing. But it goes to, okay, you need it to be intuitive. And so that's where we're at right now. And I think we've got a pretty cool schedule right now of how these things will be released, get some cool functionality out there. And I don't know how you guys go about doing this in both the world of creating tools, but even more in the world of tutorials, which is we've designed a tool. We've worked on some spline stuff that is over a year old, and we haven't shipped it yet because we were trying to make a bundle. And now in the meantime, somebody else has come out with a tool that does some similar things. Like we had ours on the list or literally already designed and not ready to ship, but like, hey, it works, it's functional. And at a certain point, it's like, well, now it has to be part of a bundle because it's kind of repeating functionality. So we kind of get that weird little limitations.
To play devil's advocate, when we released our old Octane Spotlight, literally like a week later, someone released their own version of the Spotlight for free. And it doesn't change the fact that like people will still, download your product and buy your product and stuff like that. It's fine. One thing we did, we just made sure that we never promoted their free version of it. I
get probably an unhealthy amount of obsessed with like perfection on various levels of like, oh, this has to meet everyone's expectations, and I don't want anybody to think that. I don't want anybody to think that we're copying off something or we did this. Right. So it's like, no, so many, like literally everything we're working on has been on a list for a very long time. And like I said, a lot of it has literally been coded. So we want to make sure ours are stable and robust and have more functionality than anybody else's does. And I think we can make the best tools. Like that's, we wouldn't be doing this if I didn't think we could do that. But that ends up being the challenge. But to extend it, how do you guys think about that when it comes to the world of tutorials? Because people ask me like, oh, what other tutorial makers do you recommend? And where do you get inspiration? But I effectively refuse to watch any Cinema4D tutorials, not because I don't think there's good stuff out there, but I
don't want it influencing
copying. I don't want to be influenced by it, because if I have a cool idea for a tutorial, I don't want to go and check what other people have done and then be like, well, they did this, so I'll try and make mine different or bigger or more complicated, and then end up never making the tutorial. I can't be influenced by it, and I can't and influenced by it by copying, or influenced by it by not creating it, even though I think there could be some really good content and I could put my own twist on it if I don't watch it. So I pretty much never watch other videos because of the danger. And I mean, luckily I've just spent so much time in cinema that I'm going to know how to do things.
I was going to say, you probably don't need to YouTube search anything because you probably know how to do it all anyway.
The exception tends to be going into render engines, because I don't really make tutorials on rendering because that's not where my wheelhouse is. So it's more like, oh, I want to figure out how to do volumes and Redshift. Okay, I'll go watch somebody's stuff, because I'm probably not going to ever do a tutorial about that.
Yeah.
I do that with podcasts. I rarely will listen to other motion graphics podcasts unless it's like one episode here or there. But like I don't listen on a regular basis because I feel like it's going to influence what I want to talk about or do or whatever too much. And the same thing with tutorials. In a way, like I guess I don't want to watch a tutorial on something that I already know how to do for some reason, because I feel like I don't want anything in my brain to even accidentally copy what somebody else has done. That being said, though, as far as like having duplicate content, I have never been one to, like, let's say I come up with an idea for a tutorial, which I don't really do these days that much, but maybe soon. I don't, if there's somebody else out there that's already done it, I don't care.
Yeah.
Because if I thought of it not knowing that there was already a tutorial, and let's say like I Googled something and I realized, oh, somebody already did this tutorial, I'm still going to do it because I do know that people enjoy my particular teaching style and would rather possibly hear it from me than somebody that they don't know or haven't heard of before when they Google it. So
or you Google your question and you get like a 10-year-old kid,
That's
showing
the
it
thing.
off and just saying,
That's the
all right,
thing.
now press this button and then do this button and then do this button.
Or the tutorial where somebody did
I don't
it,
know
but
why I
there's
went
no
full Carl
there's no
Williams in there,
audio.
but-
There's like
Yeah.
no audio at all.
There's
They're
so
just
many
typing.
of those.
Yeah. And if I see like 3 or 4 different tutorials of the same thing, and then Chris Schmidt also has one on the same thing, you better believe I'm going to click on the Chris Schmidt one. So that's why I don't really care if somebody's done that thing before. But yeah, I could see how watching other things could affect what you do, though. Yeah.
And like I don't look up a lot of tutorials. If I do, it's because I put that tutorial in the back of my brain as far as, okay, when you need to remember how to do this thing, go back to that tutorial.
Right.
That a lot of my EJ tutorials are in the back of my brain because I need to remember. A lot of old GSG tutorials are in the back of my brain to remember how to do things.
Right. Yeah, well, you got that challenge of tracking those down these days.
Right.
Sadly.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about remaking a couple of my old classics because
I consider remaking a few of your old classics as well.
No,
but
there's like no, go ahead.
I was gonna say sometimes, like recently, I wanted to learn like an ACES workflow in After Effects, C4D, After Effects, whatever. And some people will have different information, and you're able to piece together a full comprehensive thing, based off of several tutorials, especially when the subject matter is as detailed as that. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, it's just a personal neuroses essentially where like I want to keep it as far away as possible. But I mean, the biggest thing I'm trying to deal with right now as far as tutorials is to simplify. I keep on pricing myself out of the tutorial game because I keep on trying to one-up myself. But that's a dangerous thing to do because
it is.
A lot more people are looking for like a cool, simple technique that's applicable to a lot of things, not something very specialized. And
something
very
that looks cool and is really easy to do. That's what I've found. That will get a lot of views is if you can find something that looks awesome and is really easy to do.
Yeah. And I've been largely doing the opposite. Well, it looks cool, but it's like, oh, here's a fairly advanced technique. So
that's the hard thing is it's hard to advertise that stuff. Back in the old days when I was doing a lot of tutorials, it didn't have a lot of like pizzazz and flair. The thumbnails didn't pull you in like some crazy Instagram render or something. It was like, here's like some nerdy thing on how to do like tire rotation equations in Espresso, and like the thumbnail was nothing but like an Espresso node. And so people scrolling are gonna be like, "Oh hell yeah!" No, they don't, unless they're searching for that specifically. It's those. There's 2 types of tutorial watchers, right? There's the tutorial watcher that gets on Instagram or something and is flipping through, and they see something cool and they're like, "Oh, badass! I want to learn how to do that." And then there's the people that are Googling how to figure out how to do something very, very specific. So
yeah, I totally agree. There's like the aspirational tutorials, and then there's the like function tutorials.
Yeah.
And I've been purely in the function realm, and I think I might shift a little bit. It's more fun to do the small ones in a lot of ways, so it should just be easier. They're always shorter. The only tricky part is you gotta make that pretty render at the end, and that's not where I typically go.
Yeah, if you just have something like that at the end, like this is what you're gonna end up with if you follow this tutorial, then I feel like it does a little bit better, especially in the thumbnail realm. But and circling kind of back around to what you were talking about earlier with the making announcements on things, I feel like there's a good happy medium. Like we kind of touched on Brandon's course a little, but now that it's really ramping up, I feel like okay, now we're in the position where we can start talking about it. And Octane and Otoy have, Jules has been in the position where people were really wanting to hear more. And so he talks about all of these features, and it's like, well, this is on the roadmap for like 2 years from now, so just hang on.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, cool, that's coming. But again, you get those people like, I want it now. And then you get the people that are like, well, you promised you were going to add this, this, and this. It's like, well, we're still working on that.
that's tough because every time he's on the Slack talking about, oh, this is coming, I get it in my brain as if it's coming next, you know, when on the next release or something like that, when in fact it could be
4 releases
2 years down the line and stuff like that,
You have to think that way, especially things like he's doing with looking at holographic imaging and all of that. But I do like what Maxon is doing now, where before, like you said, they wouldn't talk about anything until it was released. I do like that they are at least giving you a roadmap, because sometimes when you're in software, we're very dedicated to Cinema4D. We are very dedicated to Cinema4D. We use it every day.
Yeah,
but there
are moving to Maya.
But there are people in the industry that are not like these dedicated C4D people. They're using all sorts of software, Substance and Maya and Blender, and they're telling you all about it. And and if they want to use Cinema4D for a certain thing, or they're trying to maybe thinking about getting more into Cinema4D, I feel like having at least a little bit of a roadmap is good. With the nodes and things, just being able to see the scene node and here's what's coming. I think that's helpful, but it is hard to and this applies more, I guess, to people like us, or anyone. If someone, let's say, for example, I wanted to write a book a long time ago. I was going to write this book, and I kept talking about how I'm going to write this book, but I wasn't actually writing the book. I was just thinking about writing the book, and I took a bunch of notes. Yeah, the novel you've been working on, the one you would work for 4 years on. And so that's the situation. And then it got to the point where I felt like doing the book was going to be a little more outdated than just doing video tutorials. So I kept teasing it, and I even had the cover done. The cover of the book was most important. And I was putting it on my website, and this is coming soon. Never happened. You got to figure out what's a good time to actually announce that you're going to be doing things. So
yeah.
But it's one of those things that you deal with, I guess, as a business owner or a YouTuber or whatever. I've been talking up my course like crazy, and it has been a struggle just to get this course done. It is such a beast. It is so overwhelming. There is so much information. There's so much supporting material. There's so much recording. There's just...
And not to mention you have to do it in 2 different programs.
You know, and some of it's like a basic stream in Facebook, a basic stream in YouTube, a basic stream on Twitch, and it gets overwhelming. And then when life happens and things come up, that pushes things down the road, no matter what it is. And
work projects come in,
work projects.
Not to mention running 2 businesses at once.
And running.
Yeah.
Trying to train for a marathon at the same time. So it's like, things happen, things come up, and it's the sucky part is that people will hold you accountable, but also the good thing is that people will hold you accountable. I feel like if you are posting regular updates like we did when we were developing our, Spotlight plugin for Octane back in the day, I feel like that posting those updates was good because it got the hype going. And when you have a following, people are following your journey, especially when you're talking about it each week on a podcast. And then eventually it's launch time and they're like, sweet, I know how much heart and soul he's been putting into this for the last year or whatever. So I'm in. Here's my money. Here's $69. I know that it's worth it because of the hard work. And if you're not pushing it, so then they're like, oh, you got a new thing out. They don't know how much work was in it, how much dedication was in it. So there's a happy medium.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it depends on the project too. Like, have you been following the Townscaper person? It's just like they're developing a little app in Unity. It creates a little town. It's really cute. And I've been following the development forever, where it's like it keeps on adding more features and more features. And I'm not even sure what it's going to end up being as a game.
Oh, yes, I have seen this. This is cool.
And it's really cool. I've been following the development for so long, and they just keep adding more and more. And like, at no point am I like, why isn't it released? Why isn't it here? I need access to this. I could be using this to generate maps for a D&D game or something. I'm not like freaking out about it, but it's really cool to see the development as it goes.
It helps keep you accountable. Like if you're posting on a regular basis, I don't know. I feel like that helps keep you motivated and going.
Yeah, that's probably true. I'm thinking we will start doing more of that. Start being more open about like, hey, we just added this feature. Here's a cool thing that we're working on. So, and like I said, we're still developing in very robust things. We're having to work within the limitations of what Cinema can do. You have to always make sure that your plugin can go back a couple versions at least. Like you guys are saying, you're still working in R20, and now R23 is here, and who knows when like an R24 might come out. So,
I mean, I have an idea, but
well, I know exactly when it comes out, but I have to keep it vague.
Yeah.
And of some versions. I will say, in spite of being on like the beta, when they did last year, when they suddenly did a half-year release, it caught me completely off guard. And I only found out about it like 2 days beforehand or something. So the video, my What's New in R22 video, S22 technically, like there's entire chunks where it's like, I don't have an example of this, but there's also this cool feature, because I literally did not have time to demo that and get the video out. So I'm paying more attention to the dates now.
I think it's also a good opportunity to use stories, Instagram stories, when you're building something like that, because you can post these little snapshots, and it's like, this isn't something that I want to be like an Instagram photo, like a pretty Instagram photo. But I was making the run sequence of this character for this massive scene that I'm building, and so I'll post that as a story, and then the next day
it's
something
not
else.
Pretty, but you can see what's going on.
People follow your journey. You know, that's what stories are for.
Yeah. I'm trying to wrap my head fully around it. It's very unintuitive for me. I'll say that. So. But, all of the marketing is unintuitive for me. I don't like being the salesman at all. It's more like, hey, everybody, here's this little thing. If you like it, go check it out. Instead of being like, hey, everybody, like, so, which I shouldn't feel bad. Like, I put so much stuff out there in the world for free, but it's still deeply, deeply unintuitive.
Do you ever feel like you want to do something like a short or something? Like I would be very interested to see, like, are you into writing or anything like that, where you would like want to write a script and do a short of some kind, or
I am, well, it's gotten, I don't know if I want to say better or worse since starting my own company, where you have to be more focused, and you have to be like, no, I can't do that project.
Yes.
I gotta do this instead. But I'm all about like fun, independent projects. I have so many hobbies I like to focus on, and I tend to jump from hobby to hobby to hobby, and then cycle back around again. Where it's like 2 months out of the year, I'm all about 3D printing, and then I don't touch it for a long time, but then I come back and dive right back in. So along those lines, people will constantly ask in interviews and whatnot of like, oh, where do you get your inspiration, and like what inspires you? And it's like, I get inspiration overload all the time. You go on the forums, you go on Instagram, you go anywhere, and it's like, oh, I want to do more modeling. Oh, I want to do more rigging. Oh, I want to make a short. Oh, I gotta get better at lighting. Oh, I gotta do, like, you want to do everything, and it can get so overwhelming so quickly. Right now, if I had more time, if I had like unlimited time, my passion project would be working on a video game, probably in Unity, possibly Unreal. I started tinkering with I started trying to learn Unreal. A lot of Jonathan's stuff was inspiring me, but of course, I started tinkering, and I was in Unreal, and then I immediately started getting into the code side of it, and I completely like didn't import any models or anything. I was like, oh, let me start coding. Let me get this function. Let me get this, and so. But like I've got tons of notes of like a video game idea, and I love systems and building that type of thing out. So I got all these ideas for like this. Well, no need to get into it. It's just hobby projects and not anything I'd ever imagined releasing. But I think even last night I was like, oh, I got a couple ideas. I'm gonna write down the notes of for this one kind of game concept. So that would be where I'd spend a lot of my time if I were to do that. But yeah, I mean, a little. Writing, drawing, printing, designing, like learning just in general. Like I get into like 3D painting every once in a while, get the Cintiq out.
That's cool.
And it's hard to stay focused, but it's all in the same general direction.
Right. I get that though.
It's 3D
or 2D art. Yeah.
Yeah, like the coming around back to things. Like I feel like during the holidays every year, I end up circling around back to 3D printing. because I'll print some ornaments or some decorations or something and be like, oh, you know what else I could do? And then all of a sudden I'm like back into 3D printing, and then the thing turns off and I don't touch it again for 6 months, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. But I've been doing a list inside of my Todoist, but this is kind of part of the GTD method, is just having that future thing, that no due date on it. You kind of set it aside. You don't see it on your to-do list unless you go to the future section. But having a list of like, oh, I want to do this thing someday in the future, and you put it on the list, and then you think of something else. And every once in a while, you go back and you revisit that list, maybe once a month, and you're like, oh, I forgot about, I should, or no, I shouldn't do that. You know,
I should do that. I want to do that, but I shouldn't.
But I shouldn't.
The one project, I'm not sure how I'll pursue, if I'll get to do it at all, because of, you know, we're still all under quarantine. But once a year, there's a ski trip, which is based around the Chicago motion graphics community, called Snowgraph, and it's really cool. Yeah, it's super cool. And we go rent like a whole house out. We go, you know, it's not like big mountains, but a couple different ones. It's really fun. It's the only skiing I've ever done is doing this trip a couple times. So but they're in the house, because it's always the same house. They've got this gigantic table. You could comfortably sit like 20 people around this table. So we took measurements of it, and the plan for, I don't know if we'll end up doing the ski trip in February this year or if it'll skip a year, but we have the idea of creating and printing out, well, a gigantic Risk board, and I want to design and 3D print all the figures to go on it, and to get the croup sticks, which is like the little sticks that a general will push the armies around. Yeah. So you'd actually be at like this full scale and get a giant. I mean, everybody was obsessed with getting Risk off the ground, and then we started talking about making a giant board, and it's like, I love these types of projects. I did a similar thing with a giant Axis and Allies board, which was exactly the dimensions of a pool table, and even that, like, if anybody's ever played Axis and Allies, the map is so small and you have so many pieces and so many little army figures that when I blew this board game up to the size of a pool table, you still can't fit all of your out of the box figures on any given little country, because there's just so many of them. But man, I love blowing things up to a giant size, because you have to like redesign and up-res the board. So you have to add like extra texturing in, and
you have to download Topaz.
You start adding Easter eggs into like the board and the figures.
That's
just be like, it's really fun. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I did the same thing with the pool table, and I talked about this for a little bit. I got this pool table in here, and I was like, well, what if I could make it interactive, and what if I could project on it? And I started running tests, and then I got Touch Designer, and then I bought a Z-depth camera, and I figured out how to make it track a ball and reproject a ball and do effects, and I could move the ball around on the table and it would see it, and it could project something and track it. But then I got to the point where, okay, now I'm going to have to get a better projector, and I'm going to have to mount it well on the ceiling, and I'm going to have to run the cable. I'm like, okay, I'm not done with this, but I'm done with this for a little bit. And what's going to happen is I'll have some downtime, you know, for a weekend or something in like 6 months, and I'll be like, oh, I'm going to revisit this, and I'll bust it back out, because I would love to do a pool table where you could do one of two things. The easiest part is setting it up and projecting down like shots on it. Like, here's a shot, here's where it needs to go, the arrows point, put one ball here.
Oh, like predictive arrows type of thing.
Yeah, and less predictive is more just like you're just projecting a JPEG or a PNG onto the table, and put the ball here and do these things. That's great for practice. But then there's a more entertaining version of it where you use Touch Designer and you use cameras and you have it actually predict and track the ball. And, you know, if you move the stick a certain way, it shows where the ball will go if you hit it, you know.
And then you get flame trail behind the ball, explosions where they collide.
Oh, see, I like where this is going already. Particle sims, and see, it's those things. It's like, I wish I had like $1 million and all the free time in the world, because that's all I would be doing is just tinkering.
Exactly. That's why get this concept going. It will set it up as one of the interactive things in at half res. That's always my excuse. That's why. That's one of the reasons I do half res. Is like, oh, I'm going to execute on one of these goofy project ideas and build an entire pinball machine inside the Cinema4D and let people like actually physically play it. And just doing all those goofy things. So every once in a while, you just got to be like, okay, let's do something absurd and complete it.
Yeah, Jeff
yeah.
is
the pinball machine was awesome.
Yeah, the pinball machine. I loved the thing. I know even though it was kind of hard to get running and kind of wonky here and there, but that Wi-Fi thing where everybody was using their phones,
yes,
like
was so cool.
That was killer. That was so much fun. Even when Ivan the intern was like trying to get things going and like it wasn't working, we were still having fun.
We were still having a blast. Yeah.
Well, just seeing it connect at all was amazing. Because for anybody who doesn't know, we have these cube races, and just in Cinema4D, I randomly programmed some cubes to hop down a racetrack. But one year we were like, oh, we're going to make interactive, where everybody will download this app, or just go to a web page, and then there'll be a button for your color, and you click the button, and the more people clicking that button will make their cube go faster.
Yeah.
And it was like the code was supposed to dynamically make sure that there's a correct number of people on every team, and we started like letting it connect and do all that. And it was connecting and it was interacting, but something just didn't quite work. It's a tiny thing. We had to buy a really, really fancy router that could handle like hundreds of people connecting at the same time. And then when the show wrapped up, then I just had it in a box sitting under a cabinet for like a year. And I had a networking friend. He does actually networking for some school systems. And he came over and he's helping us set up like a fancier Wi-Fi thing. And he's like, oh, it's too bad you like there's this at the place we've got these really high-end routers, and it's just like they're super crazy. And I just like opened up the cabinet and he's like, that's what I'm talking about. How do you have
why
that in the cabinet? Like why?
Yeah.
It was like one of the most amazing, like, oh, you mean this?
That brings us back around to half-res and everything else. What's the latest update on that? Like what's the plans with COVID and everything so far?
Yeah, I mean we're in the exact same boat that you guys are. In fact, we were there's essentially two conferences, and we're paying attention to what they were doing. It's like when they call it, we'll call it. And you guys were like, well, it's not happening. Sorry, everybody. You're like, okay, let's call it. And I don't know. I mean, we're in the same boat you guys are, which is we're hoping it can happen again. But there is the level of, I mean, and even Camp Mograph is, I feel like it's fewer people in a lot larger of an area. Half-res is let's cram hundreds of people essentially into a bar.
Right.
So it's like the worst possible conditions.
Right.
So it's like I wouldn't want to do a half one. We don't want to do a quarter res.
Quarter res.
So. So I mean, we could do it where it's like, oh, it's a lot smaller. It's a lot smaller. There's a lot fewer people. It's more intimate. But it's like, but that's not half-res. I'd rather wait until we can do it for real.
Yeah.
But I mean, if we wait, it's supposed to usually happen in September. We've already booked the date for this year, but we made sure it's fully refundable.
Right.
Because there's such a good chance that we just can't execute it the way we want to.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's no reason to think that a year from now that we're going to be able to have gatherings of 100 people. So while I'm hopeful,
especially they've just shipped the first
vaccines.
Yeah. It went through Chicago yesterday, so who knows?
We'll see.
So yeah, it's hopeful. And essentially, what we even as a committee, the half-res committee, decided is like, you know what, we're calling it, and everything all the work we've done this year is just shifting the next year. All the same speakers, we'll do that. All the like same. We are. Well, it's an extra disappointing thing is half-res has always happened on a Wednesday, which of course is the middle of the week and everybody's got work. There's a pretty common thing in Chicago's motion graphics community that everybody takes a Thursday off randomly in the middle of September because you have to recover from half-res.
That's funny.
But last year was the first time that we were doing it on a Friday. We like paid the extra money. We were doing it on a Friday so everybody could go extra crazy. And it was like, oh, it got canceled.
This is more expensive to rent a bar on a Friday night.
Significantly.
Yeah, and we're doing the same thing. We have September slotted now for it because it was October.
And then NAB switched to like basically the same weekend that camp.
Yeah. And
we had to call them, the camp, and be like, hey, we need to switch it to a different day, and they had a day in September.
We had to call NAB and be like, do you guys not know?
You guys don't know
Mograph? But that's the thing is like we've got to
the chat to make sure the dates aren't overlapping.
We will.
Yeah, because we have another date, and the thing too is like to camp alumni we did pre-sales, and so we pushed the date, and then we moved the date again, and people kind of except with the exception of like maybe one or two people have just left their money on that ticket. Say, no, hold that ticket, because as soon as COVID is gone, I'm going to this
I've already
event.
spent it, you know.
So they have faith in us, and we are just holding that money in a bank account and just waiting, you know. And so we kind of have a responsibility to them to keep them updated and let them know what's going. And where you haven't sold any tickets yet, so I imagine.
Yeah, we lucked out. We didn't have any people that would have to pay yet.
Yeah.
We had a bunch of like deposits and whatnot down, but nothing that's I think the entire process we ended up losing like $50. Like
nice.
Through we had to cancel. So that was like nothing.
No, we can't wait for it to happen again, because community is just so important, and it's so much fun. And again, I've been stressing this a lot, but there's a lot of new people coming into this industry, especially not Cinema4D people. The amount of Blender people that are like millions of Blender people coming into this genre of like motion graphics and motion design and kind of this partially like Unreal and just crazy industry. They're not getting to experience what that is, and what is like really what that part of it is, and the networking side of it, and how much fun it is to meet people and nerd out and do all of this stuff in person. You can get on a Zoom call, but it's not the same. It's not the same as drinking whiskey out of cereal bowls at 3 o'clock in the morning at Chris Schmidt's house. Not the same. So
I have found myself looking back at like a bunch of pictures of, you know, previous meetups and like Camp Mograph, and then I was looking at our trip to Iceland yesterday, you know, and that happened right after Half Res, you know, like literally I flew from Half Res, or y'all flew from Chicago to Iceland, and then I flew down to Dallas and then flew up with my wife and my kid to Iceland. You know, it's crazy. I'm missing these meetups.
That's the one thing that I used to really keep track of time, like monthly time via like physical meetups, and with that gone, like months have just become so amorphous.
There's always
this is going to be the lost year.
There's the next thing. There's always like the next thing, right? You do NAB. Oh, SIGGRAPH's going to be the next big thing. Oh, and then after SIGGRAPH, we're doing Half Res. Of course, we're doing Half Res. And then like that was your whole year. Always looking forward to.
And then there's NAB East.
NAB
and then,
East. And then there's a Beeple party. And
the Beeple party. And then there's
Christmas
time.
That's the only thing we have.
That's
the only thing we have this year to lock things in.
It's something that we will get back to someday. We will get back to that. So all of you newbies.
One thing I was thinking about the other day, we literally have nothing to look forward to. What we have to look forward to is the next month that we made it through that month, and we get to wait until the end of the next month, you know.
A quick question from the chat that was up earlier. Jeff Webb, who I believe took the creating the Unreal class, was asking, what was your favorite part of Unreal in the little bit that you did do? Was it the code or?
And to expand on that real quick, why'd you choose Unity over Unreal?
Well, back in the day, I mean, I think I was using Unity when Unreal didn't have the free license. So it's Unity. Same. I think had done that first, and from the little bit I've done back and forth, Unity feels more like Cinema4D. Like it's got a vibe.
Agreed.
Of cinema, the way it's laid out, and so Unreal I think is just a bigger beast. Unity also seems to have a little bit more of an open community of people who are like super sharing and creating tutorials and whatnot. I'm finding it a lot harder to find material in Unreal along those lines. And going back to you have no, when you're so new to a subject that you don't even know what you don't know. There's a node-based programming set up in Unreal. I'm even blanking on the name. It's like Blueprint or something. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And I started like going really deep into that and playing around. And I made like a Voronoi subdivider from scratch in it. And I was like figuring out how to generate a mesh. And then I'm watching a video and somebody's like, oh yeah, but never use blueprints. Like you don't ship a game with blueprints. That's just something to like prototype in. And I was like, oh, dang it. And I mean, I'm capable of writing the code. So And I should have probably immediately gone into the code. But once again, like I said, I get trapped in going down rabbit holes all the time where my goal in Unreal was to like, oh, let's get some cinema models in there, maybe get some nice rendering going, see what I can figure out. And immediately I go into code, which is, I shouldn't go that deep down one avenue so quickly.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, honestly, there's a lot to be said for if you're jumping into a new category like that, like find a tutorial and just go through it. Just follow the tutorial. Find a Flappy Bird tutorial. Make something from start to end, figure out how to export, get the little bit of code you need, and then modify it, change it, make it your own.
Yeah.
And then just kind of do that a couple times until you now know enough to make what you want to make. So me diving in right away to kind of making something I wanted to make was a bad call. I mean, I learned a lot, but I didn't spend enough time going to different parts of Unreal to really judge it or be like, oh, I really like this. I really like this. I was way too, single-minded in what I was focused on. So I can't properly answer the question, but it's pretty neat. I do feel like I could prototype a game in Unity quicker, not just because I've spent time, but like just that's the vibe I get.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I don't know if this is a fair comparison, but Unity feels like cinema, where Unreal feels a little bit more like Maya, where it's like it's a beast and it can do so much, but you might want to get a team of people together to work on it. And I'm not saying, like an independent person might be able to go and make things like really well, but that's the vibe I'm getting from them right now.
The production stuff though is kind of the new stuff. I don't know when you messed with Unreal. I don't know if you've messed with like the production side of it, doing things like this, the sequencer, you got your whole timeline and all of that stuff now. But to me, that's something that's like the most interesting to me, because I would like to be able to easily just bring in things from Cinema4D, go into VR. Are you a VR person? I cannot remember.
I'm a VR skeptic.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. I'm still, I mean, how many times have we had this conversation, even us? And I still don't feel like there's been the killer VR app. Like, it still hasn't quite gotten itself figured out. There's a lot of cool stuff. There's a lot of little things that are neat. But, like when the game comes out and it sells a console, where it's like, oh, you have to buy this to get the new
Mario
the
Kart,
new GTA or something.
The Last of Us.
Yeah, exactly. Like these like tentpole games, and I just don't feel like anything in VR has come out. There's a bunch of cool stuff. I love the 3D drawing. Like, it's really unique. I love watching videos where somebody makes something like incredible, and it's so stylistic and just beautiful. So even though it's 3D, it couldn't feel less like the type of 3D that we do, because it's organic and flowing, and you feel the hand of the artist, and it's just less mechanical. It's not technical. It's more straight to the art. And I really enjoy those things, but I still feel like those are more of a tech demo than anything. So I'm waiting. I'm still waiting for that killer app. I know, like, the next generation, like the Oculus 2 gets a lot of people really liking it.
It's really good.
It is really good.
But
its price point is perfect.
Yeah, but you can't play the best app, which is Half-Life Alyx, in my opinion.
Unless you get the cable.
Yeah.
Cable works great.
Yeah. When it gets to the point where I'm feeling left out of VR, then it's like, okay, now it's kind of come of age. But right now, I've been hearing nothing but VR stuff for the, what is it getting on? It's getting on 10 years of like the VR hype train since like the original Oculus stuff was coming out.
Yeah.
And it's been 10 years and I still don't feel like I'm missing out yet. It's a toy right now. It's not a must-have.
I remember you saying that, now that you bring that up, this skeptic part. And I think what we had talked about in the past was that AR is going to be a bigger thing than VR.
Yes, yeah. I do agree. Although we're still missing out on that. Like that definitely needs a couple of major like hardware hurdles before that becomes a proper thing.
Unless you can strap a 3090 to your head,
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, it gets to the point where you do need like a Google Glass, and you immediately see how that thing fell apart.
Yeah.
Although surprisingly, it is still technically a thing, but they went full enterprise on it, and it's not a consumer product. So I was like, oh, I didn't realize it still was around. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I'm waiting for that interesting world, but I don't know. Maybe it won't be a thing until like Neuralink starts becoming ubiquitous or something.
Yeah, it might get there before the AR glasses do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, if some crazy breakthrough came through in like Neuralink, and like now you're directly stimulating parts of the brain, then you don't need any of that hardware. It's like it's your own eyeballs that are doing it, not
yeah. And that's where it gets scary. We had a whole conversation on our special with Don Allen about where it could possibly, what dark areas that could possibly go into.
It could go dark quick. But it's also I don't know. The humanity is quickly hurtling towards like full dystopia or utopia.
Black Mirror.
I have no faith in humanity. It is full dystopia.
Well, it's a flip of it's not a flip of a coin, but this is like a dice roll, and like I give it like a 2 out of 20. Well, you roll a d20, and if we get
I was gonna say what kind of
20, we get a good ending. Yeah. And
anything less than that.
Yeah. But just the AI race and the crazy places that can go. But then it goes to like the dangers of AI. One of the ideas behind Neuralink is that this is a way of mitigating the dangers of AI, because if we can interface directly with an AI, then now we're kind of part of it instead of this other thing that we're interacting with through a mouse. Like you can't do that. Like I mean, you cannot. I mean, that's the whole point of Neuralink is that you cannot interface with a keyboard and a mouse at the speed that you think.
Yeah. I really wish I could do the things in cinema that I want to do that are in my head, like right away.
Yeah.
But that's the biggest bottleneck, right? Is trying to get your hand to do the things that are in your brain. So
this is so insanely far away. But can you imagine a point where if you did have these types of brain implants and whatnot, that the creation of a movie would essentially just be recording your imagination?
Yeah. Oh man.
And it's like, oh hey, go experience the imagination movie I just put together.
Yeah. Like, or when you wake up and you don't remember what your dream was.
Oh yeah.
Being able to go back and watch what your dream was, that would be fun.
Yeah. I just want to be able to build like in cinema, because I'll sit in front of a blank canvas and I'll be like, okay, I need a cloner. I need to put these objects in it. I need them to be 30 by whatever. I need to add this tag. I need to do this sim. They need to be able to collide with this thing. I can think that in like a split second, but doing it takes 5-10 minutes, right? So it's like someday.
Unless you're Chris Schmidt.
Yeah, that's true.
Like a minute and a half.
Yeah.
I have to speak faster to keep up with what's
right.
That's why everybody has to watch your YouTube videos on 0.5.
Right.
Exactly. I'm the only person who gets slowed down.
Yeah. Got a couple links here before we go. Just real quick, I wanted to point out this is something that somebody tagged me in on Slack to put in the links, and it's something that actually Tokyo Megs posted from someone, and it is called "Painting a Selfie Girl with Maths." So somebody
this is so cool.
Somebody went through and did an entire 3D model of a character with a background and everything using all mathematics, 100%. Every piece of the face and the eyes and the hair and the background, everything was done with math and graphs.
And it was
crazy
real time, right? Or like
playback. Yeah, it could play back.
Yeah. It was cool because you had it was actually moving. It was animated. And it was programmed. Yeah, it's neat.
Yeah, so even when it comes like you think the head and the chin, you've got like two spheres, and the way that the two spheres kind of meld together, all graphs and all of that. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is just a little piece of free software, and it's called Lossless Cut. And have you ever been in the situation where you're working with a long form MP4? I know I have, and it's not pretty, especially if you're trying to edit with it. Like, say that you want to go to, okay, first of all, say you want to just chop the beginning and end off of something. That's one thing. You got to put it into a piece of software like Premiere, and then you got to re-export it, and it takes a while. Or especially if like you need a clip from something and you're trying to edit with it. I don't know if you've ever tried to edit with an MP4 that's like 4 hours long in Premiere, but you go, say you want to edit something that's at the end of it, like maybe the last 15 minutes. Something about the way Premiere handles that type of compressed file, it has a really hard time. It's got to go back to the beginning and go back to keyframes and think, okay, now this video needs to look like this here at this particular point. And you have audio that drifts, and it just all sorts of problems. So all I want is something where I can either trim MP3s that are long, or if I have to edit something that's at the end of a long presentation, I can clip maybe the 10 minutes I need and use that file instead. And this is a free piece of software. It's called Lossless Cut. And you just drag the file in and you set in and out points and you hit export, and in about 10 seconds you have a new video. Even if it's like a 4-hour thing, it's like, it's not exactly like remuxing, but it's kind of similar, because the only other option is to like literally open Premiere and re-encode an entire long video. If you want to take, say you want to take 4 seconds off the top, or take it in a
media encoder and like trim it on the little things,
and pray that it doesn't output all black for some reason.
Right.
After 4 hours.
I love Adobe. Thanks, Adobe.
I had to trim something yesterday with 2 pieces, and Adobe Premiere 2019 crashed 3 times, and so I opened it in 20 and it crashed 5 times. So what I did was I went to Lossless Cut. I took that 10-minute clip that I needed, I brought it into Premiere 2020, and it worked fine. No issues. Because what would happen was I would get to the end of the MP3, and it's not that Premiere would crash. It was up and running. You could click and you could save, but the video just wasn't working. And I'm like, what else do you need? I'm on an i9, 14 cores, 3090, 22080s, all the RAM in the world, all the freaking speediest M2 drives. Why can I not edit a 5-minute MP4 together? Like, it shouldn't take that much effort. And I know everybody's going to say, well, you should be using DaVinci. But, you know, I'm paying for Premiere. So,
we already paid for DaVinci.
I know. I know. But my ecosystem is just, that's what I hate. I don't want to learn new things. I don't like change.
Well, it is true. I downloaded DaVinci, and I went to try and edit a video, and it was kind of like, I need to get this video out, and I don't have time to learn every button. So back to Premiere. I don't want to, but I'm going to.
Right.
So you put yourself in the catch-22 where you'll never use it. So yeah, I don't know. I guess you just have to brute force it at a certain point.
Yeah, maybe I should just force myself into doing it. I don't know.
We should.
Yeah.
Let's do that, Dave.
Yeah. But
full
Lossless
DaVinci
Cut
from now on.
You never want to go full DaVinci.
Uninstall Premiere. You'll force yourself.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw something in. I only just decided I'm going to put a coupon code, a Cyber Monday coupon code, in my Slack channel for 25% off recall.
So snap.
Head on over to rocketlassoslack.com, and if you join the Slack, I will be putting, soon after we're done recording, I'll put a coupon code there for the next 24 hours for 25% off recall, which is a plugin, the first plugin from Rocket Lasso. It's all about with essentially a double click storing any object, any hierarchy, and then being able to bring it back to that state at any point. And there's tons of videos and details about it.
Yeah, I was going to say, we didn't even talk about that. We haven't talked about that.
I get better at advertising, man.
I know.
Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, we do have a tool out there already.
Yeah, tell us more. I really love this plugin, by the way. It's really great.
I've got a demo video out that I love all the use cases for it. But the basic idea is you can take an object, you can make copies of it, you can save multiple iterations, but really often, all the time, I build a rig where it's like, oh, because of some limitation with dynamics or something, I need to make this cloner editable. And then you're like, okay, cool, I made it editable, but now I need to go back a couple of steps, or I have to go back 15 minutes to get back to where that rig was to make changes and then remake it editable. And that's when I was like, oh, we got to make this tool. So we did, and it's a tag plugin, and you double click on, you put the tag, you double click, and you've now stored that object and all of its children. And by double clicking, you can bring it back. And if you're working on a model, you're modeling a character, you can keep on creating more recall tags and store every single state and just double click and pull it back in. And there's a lot of extra functionality about keeping things organized, creating thumbnails, but also you can, there's so many use cases for it because you can copy the tag onto other objects. So you could be like, oh, I've got this bottle, but I need all those other bottles to turn into this object. So you can copy the tag over and it's going to maintain this position and rotation of the existing one and kind of jump that model, turn it into this other one that you stored. So it's really cool to be able to bring back your object. It's I have a demo I really like where I take all the lamps from the content browser and I store all of them as different tags and I put them on one lamp. So at any given point, I can double click on any lamp and that lamp will transform into these other lamps, just pop into existence there. It's really cool, especially the best use case for it on a kind of a daily use case is storing your camera, where you can store the current state of your camera and then go and move your camera around, zoom, do whatever you want. At any given point, just double click and you're back to the state when you had recorded it. But you can create multiple ones where it's like one of them is keyframed, one of them is I got a low angle shot, the other is a crazy zoomed in angle, and now you can just double click and jump to any of those states. It'll automatically relink to the camera, keeps everything stored, and I don't know, it's just it's a really useful tool. It's just one of those ones where we had to sneak it in the middle of working on all the splines because it's like, this is too useful, it needs to exist.
Is there any surprising use cases that you have seen come out of it that you didn't think of, that maybe a user has come up with or something? You're like, oh, I never even thought about using my own plugin like that.
I haven't gotten to see too many examples of it because it's a workflow tool, so you don't get that flashy thing where, like, when I had made CityKit, like I could be in a restaurant and see CityKit on the TV because of Sports Center or something. It's like, oh, there it is. Like I can never recognize recall because it's a workflow tool for the user and it brings the objects back. It just saves you a lot of time. I guess I surprised myself several times when I was trying to record the demo videos of like, oh wait, it can do this and it can do this. Like even just the basic camera usage ends up being incredibly powerful. And while I was doing that, we changed, if you put the tag on a camera, we changed one of the default settings automatically for the user where it does remember the position and rotation. So there's it's really good for find and replace. It's the kind of thing where I used it to grow like trees and X particles. And it's like, oh, I like that tree, and I make it editable. And at any given point, I can double click and go back to the X particles rig that could regenerate a brand new tree with a different seed. So a lot of really cool use cases there. But essentially, the use case that I was just kind of blown away by was, like I said, I like keeping everything as procedural as possible. So I have this just crazy like text rig, and there's all these bools and sweeps and things getting cloned all over the place. It takes forever to like refresh. And it's like, well, okay, I can bake it out as a Alembic and then put into a cloner, but what happens if the client comes back and they want the text to be different or they want to change the font? It was so slow, but it's like, oh, store it as recall. It keeps the parametric version stored away, bake it down, and at a given point, double click, and the other one is instantly back. So you go from, it goes from a 15-second refresh for one frame to you bake it as a Alembic, store this away in recall, and it's running at like 800 frames per second because it's baked down. Cinema loves baked down objects.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I always found that interesting too because like for a client or something, if we brought in something that's like 1 million polygons as a CAD file, it would be really choppy. But if you would bake those 1 million different objects into each other as 1 million polys, it would work just fine like butter.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I like the being able to store the dynamics. Like that's incredibly useful.
Oh yeah. Well, it goes. That was another surprising use case where if anybody's run into it, if you're running a soft body, well, a lot of different simulations, but specifically like a soft body simulation, it's one of those things where if you click the wrong way at the wrong time, suddenly your model has been baked in some deformed state and it jumps back to 000, but it's deformed and you're screwed. Like at that point, essentially all you can do, you can hit undo all you want.
Yeah.
At that point, you just have to like revert to your previous saved file.
Yeah.
But if now you put a recall tag on it before that happens, I mean, if you don't do it before, then you're still kind of screwed. But it's like, oh, I'm going to do something dangerous. Let me store it. And now you could break it all you want, and then this can bring it back to the previous state, so your dynamics will not be broken. So that was definitely another surprising use case where it's like, whoa, I didn't think that would work, but it did.
Yeah.
I need to be using that right now. Have you tried it with motion clips at all? I wonder, could you use it?
Know that I have.
Huh. I'm gonna try that.
I'm not sure. Yeah, well, try and break it and let me know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's really cool. It's really cool getting a tool out there into the world as well. So I gotta get that coupon code out there. We haven't had a sale yet, so this will actually be the first sale for anything recall, or anything anything recall related, anything
Rocket
Lasso related.
Yeah, Emmett Smith in the chat says using it to replace an object is a great bonus.
Yeah.
That's an old throwback joke.
That's an old throwback, yeah.
Haven't talked to old Dan Marino in a while.
No.
Welcome.
Yeah, it's been a while. Cool. Well, I think we're gonna wrap it up and get out of here, man. We really appreciate you coming on, hanging out with us, and giving us the update on all the things.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. It's
man.
exciting to be here. I'm going to be doing a podcast with EJ later in the week for school.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
We did one last night.
We just did one with them last night. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
That's funny.
It was fun. It was good stuff.
Yeah.
EJ, I don't know why EJ doesn't have his own podcast, because when he's running it, when he's in charge, he's very good at it. He's very good.
Well, when him and I, we got to figure it out. We just didn't figure out the format. But when him and I were doing the Maxon Roadshow, when we were in Europe, the two of us were like, we got to do a podcast. Like, we got to get something. But we were like, but it's almost like we needed like a third person. You want to get like that tripod.
Yeah.
Right.
And we just didn't figure out that hook. So it's kind of like an ongoing, like, oh, if we think something good, then we got to talk some more. So, but I agree, EJ's really good at that stuff.
Yeah. And this is podcast for his course.
T40.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, that's true. I actually did a proper podcast with Joey a couple weeks ago, which will get released soon. And now, it's a big podcast month for me.
Yeah. That's good.
You'll have to call in to our holiday show in a few weeks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Say hi. I made a note. I actually made a note that I should do that.
Cool. Yeah. Well, if people want to find you online, where can they find you on all the things?
At Rocket Lasso, at all the things. So, yeah, every account. And soon we'll have, and I've been saying soon for a while, but it is really, I've been populating with the actual content. So soon we'll have the official rocketlasso.com. Right now it's still like the temporary kind of construction page, but we've got some really nice search functionality for all the tutorials and live streams. And I guess this is the first time I'm mentioning it anywhere, but we wrote a bunch of custom code so that I could embed the time codes directly, and it'll in the embedded video as you're watching, you can click time codes and jump like straight to them in the video, which is like some cool specific tech. Yeah. So looking forward to getting that out finally. So
cool.
Awesome, man.
And you're also at Chris Schmidt on some things too, right? If people want to just follow you.
My at Chris Schmidt 3D on Twitter and Instagram. But at this point, those are my personal accounts, even though, I keep everything, I don't know, pretty professional. Essentially, I only use social media for professional things. So
gotcha.
if I'm following somebody and they start posting pictures of anything that's essentially not work related, I'm like, sorry, like that's not what I'm using this for.
So you don't want to see my pets or anything,
That was going to be. I was going to say the only exception is like really cute cats and dogs. It's like okay, I'll allow it.
I'll allow it.
But it's the only way to stay sane in social media is to keep it like strictly professional. So even if there's an artist I love, if they start posting too much personal stuff, it's like that's just not what I'm using this for.
Yeah. Same here.
Yeah. So. Cool. All right.
But at Rocket Lasso is the main one.
Cool. Well, we're going to get out of here. You can rate us on iTunes, leave a review on your podcatcher of choice. It helps get our ratings up if you subscribe. And also subscribe to our newsletter. It goes out pretty regularly. I'm trying to get to it this week. It just hasn't been happening the last couple weeks. Been busy. You can say you've been there, done that, got the t-shirt with the Mograph logo tee, the Paul Babb Feel the Bab 2020 shirt. All the profits from that goes to Doctors Without Borders. I have changed the price. The price cannot, on our Amazon merch thing, it cannot go up to $1,000, so I set the price as high as it would go.
Which is?
I don't remember.
All right.
You can go see it at mograph.com. Also, so we got all the merch on there. We also have the Render Things t-shirt, hoodie, and long sleeve tee. That render is fire shirt, which you're only allowed to wear ironically, unless you're shams. And we've also got the new Mograph graphic blandishment shirts up. There's 2 different styles. There's the long sleeve and the short sleeve with different colors.
It's only $50. That's as high as you can set it.
As it can go.
That's
Sorry.
all right.
It's $50, but the profits from that are for Doctors Without Borders. That's why it's higher now.
Yeah.
And it's vintage. It's throwback now.
Vintage,
right?
Yeah.
And bonus, the old school. You remember we used to have secret shirts. Remember back in the day?
Right.
So I completely forgot about secret shirts, but I released one of the secret shirts onto the merch site. You can officially get the Render Wars. The Render Wars shirt is on there now. I figure at this point, might as well just throw it out there so people can get it.
Right.
Because everybody asked me for it.
Dang, that's cheap right now. I don't think we're making any money
off
that.
We're not making. It's cost. It's cost. Right. And Render Wars wasn't our idea anyway, so we're not making any money off of it. We're just putting the design out there that we made. So check it out.
$14.07 for that shirt. That's
Wow, you can't beat that.
Yeah.
Right?
$20 is the threshold for t-shirts. If it's more than $20, I'm like, I gotta really love it.
Right.
But under 20, it's like that's the cost of a quality t-shirt. So anything under it, it's like water.
You're getting it at cost. Right. You get it 2-day shipping on Amazon Prime. That one is only available though in the US store. I will have to get that going in the UK store as well. So that is about it. Yeah, that wraps it up. Again, thanks, Chris. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Mograph.com if you want to check us out there. And until next time, I'm Dave.
And I'm Matt.
And I'm Chris.
Have a good one.
Later, yo.